Hey everyone, welcome to the Evil Geniuses Bleed Blue podcast. This is the podcast where I talk about everything Evil Geniuses. Except this episode, I'm not gonna be doing the typical format that I do, where I go League of Legends, and then Dota 2, and then Valorant, and then Counter Strike. We're not doing that this time because, as you can see by the topic, EG management is incompetent, and I have to discuss it because it's fucking outrageous. It's disrespectful to the fans. It's disrespectful to the players. It's disrespectful to the coaches. Um, it's disrespectful to everyone involved, really. And frankly, I need to talk about it. For those who don't know, Thorin made a video kind of going through everything that's happened with evil geniuses in their past and kind of demonstrating how shit they are when it comes to their management. And that's what this podcast is going to be about this week. So I will, if you want to, see more content regarding, the specific results of the week from EG CSGO team, by all means, go to the later part of this episode where I talk with Current about the results of the team. But for this beginning portion of the podcast, it's strictly going to be about the management of this organization and why it is so absolutely diabolically dog shit. Um, so if that's something that you're interested in, which if you're a fan of EG you should be, because you deserve better than this, let's have a listen. Um, EG management is incompetent. They are incompetent as fuck. And so the way that I'm going to break this down is I'm going to kind of go over a few key situations, mainly two situations, where you really, really get to see just how poor the management is. And the two situations that come to my mind are the Stewie 2K incident and the Kassad incident. I think those are quite clearly the obvious two. We're also going to talk about the HexT story as well, but it's going to be a little bit more brief. And then what we're going to do is we're going to kind of go down. This isn't obviously going to be for everybody in the management, but for the key figures, the ones who make themselves publicly available. And we're going to kind of uh, critique them, I guess you could say. But basically, going to be talking mainly at toward Nicole and toward GamerDoc. Those are the two that I have the most problems with, or maybe not the most problems with, but um, they're very public about on Twitter, and so um, and well, for Nicole's sake, she's the CEO, so everything goes back to her, right? And then from GamerDoc's perspective, she's the director of performance. Obviously, performance has been shit, and the things that she said have been very unprofessional. I've called for her head many, many times over the past couple of months, and so really just going to delve even more deeper into that situation, and just kind of you know, talk about just how shit the management is. This disappoints me. This is like one of the things that I never wanted to have to talk about. I understood that in esports, you know, many organizations are dog shit. Many organizations don't have um, an ethical foundation. A lot of them are unethical in their practices. It's esports. Everyone's unethical. But I never expected EG to be this bad. Um, but it is that bad. It's worse than you think. And if you really want to, kind of again, I highly recommend watching Thorin's video about EG. He calls them a clown org, and he goes into detail in terms of what the management has done and all the things they fucked up and all that stuff. And then specifically for the Stewie 2K situation, I recommend watching Richard Lewis's videos, where he goes through in a series of videos and explains the Stewie 2K situation as it's happening in real time, um, and kind of breaks it down in terms of just how incompetent Stewie 2K is as a person and as a leader. Um, by the way, still paying him, I'm pretty sure. I think he's still with the organization, so yeah, and he's talked shit about us multiple times. But EG doesn't care. They just don't give a flying fuck, which is a common trend. So let's first talk about Stewie 2K. Now, when it comes to Stewie 2K, when it comes to Stewie 2K, I'm not going to go over everything with Stewie 2K. As I said, go watch Richard Lewis's videos regarding Stewie 2K. But this is again going to be focused on EG's management and why they are, and just kind of demonstrating just how incompetent they are. Um, And so when it comes to Stewie 2K, the first thing that you can mention is hiring Stewie 2K, right? Obviously, it was someone's idea to sign Stewie 2K to the roster, and it was the management. And while on the surface level that doesn't sound bad, when you get into the details of it, you can start to realize very quickly just how incompetent of a decision this is. So Stewie um, had many times mentioned that he wanted to be the in-game leader of a team, and EG wanted to give him a shot. However, at the time, I believe Malek was already kind of joining the roster. Basically, everyone was telling EG's management, do not sign Stewie 2K. There's a reason why nobody wants him. He um, he will not do well from in an IGL role. Do not do it. He will ruin your team. Yada yada yada. EG said no. EG said this is the best player in North America. They said he's the best player in North America. He is our golden boy, and he will save us from the brink of destruction. They don't even know Stewie 2K's track record, guys. Stewie 2K at the time was never, in Stewie 2K's entire career, he was never, ever the best player in North America. Not even once. Not even once. Um, and definitely not at the time. He he ruined this team. He ruined it. Um, it was just I can't even describe, right? So against everybody's warnings, they signed Stewie 2K. And what do? Instead of giving the coaches the power, right? And when I say they, I'm referring to the management. So this would be Nicole. This would be probably people like Danny Engles and GamerDoc, right? They gave Malek. They promised Malek control. They promised Malek that he would be able to implement his system, right? He had just come from G2. They just made the major final, right? Um, they promised him these things, and they didn't give that power to him. You know who they gave it to? Stewie 2K, the same fucker who ruined the team and who continually ruined the team for months. And you know what they did during the entire period that he was ruining the team? They went, actually, I think we'll still back Stewie 2K over you, Malek. I'm sorry, what are they doing to you, Malek? Are they not respecting you? Is he not respecting your opinion? Oh no, that's fine though. We're okay with that because it's Stewie 2K and we believe in him to save NACS. Utter shit. They gave Malek no control, and when things didn't go the way that EG wanted them to go, they fired Malek. Explain how that makes sense. Explain why he was the one who had to leave. Thorin mentions in his video, in the post that EG made when they fired Malek, they literally said, we essentially got rid of Malek because he didn't believe in the same ideas. He doesn't have the same goals in mind in terms of the structure and the systems of the team as we do. And you know what they did the second they got rid of Stewie 2K? They rehired Malek. But I thought Malek didn't believe in the same systems, so why are you rehiring him? It's almost like you realized you fucked up. It's almost like you realized that you fired the wrong person and that you put your faith in the wrong person. Even though the players and the coaches had been telling you for 6 months that Stewie 2K was the problem, that Stewie 2K would not listen, was doing disrespectful things, and you still couldn't see it. It was right in front of you. Everyone was telling you, and you still didn't notice. It was so bad. Nicole saw it herself in person, but she knows so little about fucking Counter Strike. She couldn't tell that Stewie 2K wasn't doing his job. In ESL Pro League, Stewie 2K and the rest of the team, I believe they were scrimming at the time at a hotel. Um, Stewie 2K, they were all playing in a hotel or something, and Nicole was there. She went to Pro League to watch the team. Now, I don't know specifically why she went to this event. I would imagine it's because the results were so absolutely diabolically bad that EG was desperate for a good result. They had had months off before this event. People were expecting EG to look significantly better this event after all the time off that they had. Spoiler, they didn't look any better. They looked actually worse. and they just bombed out of the tournament. But Nicole was there watching the team play. Stewie 2K in the middle of the game gave up, stopped calling, stopped doing his job that they're paying him hundreds of thousands of dollars to do, right? Nicole didn't give a fuck. They didn't change the roster. They technically, maybe they at that point made the decision, but it didn't matter. It was too late into the season. And they didn't care. And they're still paying Stewie 2K. As far as I can remember, I think he's still affiliated with them. Even though after Stewie was released from the team and left Counter-Strike altogether and went to Valorant, he repeatedly shit on the organization, shit on Malek. He had very harsh things to say about Malek. EG's management treated Malek like absolute dog shit. And when Malek got fired, Malek apparently was such a nice person, he even offered suggestions to EG on who to hire in replace of him. He didn't need to even do that with how poorly they treated him. But he did it anyway because he's just too nice of a guy. And then EG realized, oh fuck, we made a mistake, and tried to rehire Malek. And frankly, I'm shocked he came back. Nicole doesn't know what she's doing with this team. I don't think she gives a flying fuck about this team. I think if this team succeeds, it's great, but she doesn't actually give a flying fuck. I don't think anybody in the management knows what they're doing with this team. I think the only people who know anything about what they're doing with this team are the coaches and the players and Valens. That's it. Those are the only people that actually know what the fuck is going on with this team. Other than that, the management is incompetent. They continue to make poor decisions. They give power to the player, and no power to the coaches. They don't give a flying fuck about the coaches. They give them unreasonable expectations, expect them to meet those expectations, and when they don't meet those expectations, they fire them, even though they're good coaches, even though they do the right thing, even though they work hard. And this doesn't only apply to Counter-Strike. You would like to think, well, the League of Legends is relatively successful. Surely they treat their coaches well for League of Legends. No. Even though the coaches arguably is what made the League of Legends team great, they fired them all. They literally fired most of them in the off-season. They fired Peter Dunn. Rigby had to go for military duty, but they fired him too anyway. I don't know that Rigby could have stayed, but maybe he could have. I don't know. But he got fired, although I suspect maybe there's something to do with Rigby and Danny's fractured relationship. I don't know about anything about that yet, but news will come out on that in the future, and you bet your ass I'm going to talk about it. But yeah, people like Peter Dunn, who really helped develop talent in the League of Legends team, didn't get any respect either. Was shoved out the door. EG just has a history of treating these coaches like dog shit, not giving them the power to do what they want, forcing ideas on them, selling ideas to them, and they're not actually committing to it, right? And so that's where this whole Stewie 2K situation, really the crux of it when it comes to the poor management, is they gave Stewie 2K all the power. They said he was the golden ticket to saving the team, and he just put it in a fucking hole. Stewie 2K's tenure on this roster was the worst this team has ever been, and hopefully ever will be. I'm not joking when I say it was the worst you have ever. Look at these results that they had when they played. They're absolutely atrocious. I kid you not. I used to get happy when they would win 10 rounds against any opponent. Tier 2 NA doesn't give a. I don't even care. It was literally 10 rounds against teams, and I was content with that. Um, that's how bad they were on maps. Forget winning a series against anyone. They would lose everything. And it was Stewie's fault, but even more than Stewie's fault, it was the management's fault for letting it happen. There is no way in hell the management should have allowed Stewie 2K to do what he did. And the sad part is, I think if you ask them about Stewie 2K now, somehow, some way, they would tell you good things about him and say that he's a great guy. After everything that he's done to hurt the organization, to hurt the teammates that he had, to hurt just the shit performances, absolutely unacceptable shit. Treated the coaching staff like garbage. Malek was put in such a difficult position, and they didn't give a fuck. They didn't give a fuck. They sided with Stewie. It's fucked up and it's wrong. It's fucked up and it's wrong. So that's the Stewie situation. That's the poor management there. The poor management there obviously being signing Stewie 2K, um, and just not, clearly seeing that, he's fucking the roster up and not doing anything about it and just actually doubling down on him and giving him more control, when clearly the control should have been ripped away from him. Now we move on to the Kassad situation, right? The Kassad situation. Now, there were details about the Kassad situation that I was not aware of until this Thorin video was released, and now it makes a whole lot more sense. And you see some consistent trends here, um, that clearly are kind of reflected in some of the other things that have happened with evil geniuses. So a lot of it is honestly, I knew that Kassad, clearly some beef had gone on between them, EG and Kassad, but it was unclear, right? It was presumably that Kassad was looking for a position at Evil Geniuses, and that they, made false promises and didn't end up hiring him, and so that was the reason why Kassad was ticked off at them. But it's a little bit more deeper than that. It's mostly on point, but there's more details, right? So apparently, Kassad was actively interviewing for a position at EG. EG obviously has a lot of resources, has a lot of money, and Kassad saw that as an opportunity and said, with those types of resources, you could build an incredible team. You could compete for championships. That's something I want to be a part of. And the management, by the way, 5 different departments interviewed him, which is mental. I don't understand why 5 different departments are interviewing him. For example, GamerDoc should not be interviewing Kassad. Danny Engles should not be interviewing Kassad. Nicole LaPointe Jameson should not be interviewing Kassad. You know who should be interviewing Kassad? Valens, because he's your fucking director of EG CSGO. He should be the one doing that because he actually knows what the fuck he's talking about. And he should be able to have say and control into what happens with the Evil Geniuses CSGO team. You know who shouldn't be interviewing him? Andrew Barton should not be interviewing him. These are all people that probably interviewed him that shouldn't have been interviewing him. You can make the argument the CEO should be there at some point, sure, but she shouldn't have the say in terms of, is Kassad going to be good for EG CSGO? That's not her. She shouldn't be the one making that decision. She's ill-informed. She doesn't know anything about Counter-Strike. Why would she make that decision? Kassad was given false promises, was told multiple times that he was at the top of their list, and then was ghosted. Was treated like garbage. And from Kassad's standpoint, he just sees an organization with opportunity, endless opportunity, with the amount of resources they have to really build a #1 team in the world, to really build something special. But EG just didn't want to do it. And what did they do instead? Danny Ingles came up with a very original idea to create a 20-man roster, 5 being from the female team, 10 being from 2 academy level teams, and 1 main roster, known as the Blueprint Project. Now, why is this such a fucking piece of shit idea? Well, for starters, it clearly, at this point, there is no purpose of EG White. It is an absolutely useless team that does nothing but hurt players who join it. I'll get to that in a second. But Danny Engles came up with this idea. You want to know how he came up with this idea? League of Legends. Because everything Evil Geniuses does is related to League of Legends. Because for some reason they got a sniff of victory during the spring season, and they somehow now think that they should just run every esports division just like they run League of Legends. Which is so stupid because all the esports, I mean, it takes you 5 minutes to realize that League of Legends is not run the same way that Counter-Strike is, and Counter-Strike isn't run the same way that Dota 2 is, and Dota 2 isn't run the same way that fucking Valorant is. They're all run differently, right? It's why, for example, Valorant having a 10-man roster, to me, the more I think about it, yes, if you're doing it in good faith because you actually believe that a 10-man roster is possible, that's one thing. But I don't think that's EG's belief at all. I think EG genuinely just wants to copy paste what they do with League of Legends with every other division they have. And they somehow think that that's going to work. But the reason why, right? So they go with Danny Engle's idea of the Blueprint Project, and obviously Kassad's pissed because he's just like, so you're your idea, instead of hiring me to build one of the best rosters in the world, is to build this shit. Are you kidding me? Are you insane? I don't. You can't blame the guy. I'd be pissed too. I'd be mad too when you see because you have to understand, it's not just, well, they're taking a gamble on young talent. It's like, you're also, this money could be used for the next up and coming players in the world, young players with serious potential, and you're just not giving them that opportunity because you want to do things all in NA, but really that's just an excuse for you to sign cheap contracts and not have to pay a whole lot of money, not have a whole lot of commitment to Counter Strike, but claiming that you do. Because if I'm gonna be honest, I don't think EG even gives a shit about their Counter Strike division. I think the proof is just, I mean, look at how much effort they put into anything that isn't League of Legends. With their League of Legends team, they show them so much attention and love. They are constantly creating content for that team. They're constantly bigging up that team. It is their flagship game at this point. It's all they really know how to manage. They don't. I mean, if you're an EG fan, you wouldn't know that they had a Dota 2 team unless you like looked it up. Um, Especially the Rocket League team when they had one. Valorant they briefly talk about, but it's mostly just because it's a Riot, you know, it's a Riot owned game, and the Valorant team is now going to be um, in the same area as the League of Legends team, but the EG CSGO team is a joke. The whole project is a joke. It's laughable. Um, and they just don't care. And Kassad has seen all this, and it pisses him off that an organization with this much with this many resources is just is doing this. This is what they're using their time and effort for. It's just fucked up and it's wrong. Um, and again, it would be one thing if this was in good faith, but it's presumably not in good faith. Presumably, at least from what I've seen, this isn't a good project at all. I would love to know Danny Engles his thought process behind this project and how what is EG White supposed to fucking be? Tell me. Tell me what is the future for EG White? Is it just going to be CCT tournaments for the rest of the fucking year? Is that it? Is that all you have in mind? That's not even your idea. That's just getting lucky that CCT's hosting tournaments. Is that seriously the plan? Because guess what? Evil Geniuses is responsible. The management of EG is responsible for conning these Party Astronauts players into joining Evil Geniuses. Because in hindsight, none of these players should have joined Evil Geniuses. Party Astronauts should have stayed separate, because then they could have competed in ECL still. Then they could have had a chance to make it to the fucking major. They could compete in these other events. They might make it to Pro League, right? They might make it to a Blast. But instead, because they're with EG, they can't participate in shit. They are stuck. They can't do anything. They have more resources. They have more money. They are now salaried players, but they can't do anything with it. They're worthless. They're just sitting there rotting away with nothing to compete in, with no way to get better. There is no point in EG White. Danny Engles, tell me why that roster exists. Give me one fucking reason why that roster exists. I'll tell you fucking why. It's because you just want to sell that shit off the second an organization comes in that shows any remote interest in buying a North American team. That's fucking why you did this. There's no other reason for why you did this. It's a fucking joke. I feel bad for every single one of these EG White players. They're getting conned, misled, mistreated. It's fucked up and it's wrong. There's nothing good that is coming from this EG White project. It's an absolute waste of time and money. It could be used for other things. For fuck's sake, we can get rid of the EG White roster, free them from their shackles, let them compete whenever the fuck they want, and we can put that money into moving those coaches over to the main squad to help them get better. If you want to put more coaching staff on the main team, we need as much help as we can fucking get with the results we're getting. I'm sick and tired of it, dude. What is the point of EG White? They don't post anything about EG White as a project. There's no point to it. It's just a waste of time. It's just an absolute waste. So that's why Kassad's pissed, and he should be, and he has every right to lash out and say whatever the fuck he wants. Because he's right. He's just right. So I'm going to talk about some of the individuals here. I kind of just talked about Danny Engles, but which by the way, I literally he was like, Thorin had mentioned basically that he used to be some fucking race car esports professional. I don't know, whatever. Um, and and his response was, "Oh, I'm glad somebody remembered my racing career." And I was like, you should be a fucking you should be ashamed. You should be ashamed of how you've run this. This is horrible. It's so bad. Like EG is not even just a laughing stock. They're just shit. They've been shit for years. You should feel ashamed. You should be fired. You shouldn't have your job. You should not have your job. I wish my life was as easy as you to just check steal. I'd love to call it check stealing, but at the same time, I feel fucked up calling it check stealing because Nicole's just letting it happen. I mean, she just doesn't care. She'd give two fucks about what happens to the CSGO division. She could care less. Or the Dota 2 division. Or the fucking Rocket League team when that was a thing. Or the fucking, well, fuck. I can't say the Valorant team because, Riot partnered. She loves Riot. I'll get to that in a second. Nicole. I don't even know how to pronounce the last name properly without. I want to pronounce it properly. I don't want to be that much of an asshole. All right, let's see here. How do we? If it would load. I don't think it's gonna load. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. This is what I thought. Okay. Doesn't even fit on the fucking screen. There we go. Nicole's the CEO, right? Now, granted, she's unqualified. She has no experience with esports whatsoever. Again, watch the Thorin video. He talks about it. She knows nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's clear that the only thing she cares about is the League of Legends division. She doesn't care about anything else. I think she partially cares about the Valorant team, mostly because it's another Riot game. But I think other than that, she doesn't give a flying fuck about the rest of these teams. Um, and it shows by the decisions that are made within these teams. And especially for the Counter-Strike division, obviously watching Stewie2K do what he did and just be okay with it, and just not care, and then see your coaches get treated like shit and not care. And that applies for Peter Dunn as well. Um, I don't understand. I just I'm sorry, but I'm like I don't even know how to explain all this stuff. It's so bad. It's just so bad. Um, yeah, it's really disappointing. Look, I don't care if Nicole's a nice person in person. Um, I'm sure she is. I mean, as far as I knew, she was a good person, or is a good person, at least from, you know, things I had heard. I mean, I didn't know anything bad about her, but look, she may be a nice person, honestly, but she's not a good CEO when it comes to running this team, running this organization. Um, I've mentioned this in the past. I became an EG fan because of their, under their previous ownership. That was what I was a fan of. I was a fan of the fact that EG wasn't afraid to spend money to get the best talent to win in whatever esports they were in. And genuinely, their branding was perfect because they were so good in every esport they were in. You, especially like what I vividly always remember is Call of Duty. Back during the, I believe it was the Black Ops 2 days, they were just and Ghosts. They were just such a good team. Like their history in Call of Duty is incredible. Um, Very successful at that, and they struck fear into you when they were on the server. You knew if you were playing Evil Geniuses, you were in for a tough time. You were in for a fight. It was going to be really hard to win. And now you look at EG and it's a joke. It's an absolute fucking joke. And there's only one person to blame. Um, for it's the one leading the pack, right? Um, because I don't think this would have happened under um, the previous management. Like I don't think this is what Andrew Garf or not Andrew Garfield. I always say Andrew Garfield because it's just the first name that comes to mind. Alex Garfield. He was the old CEO for Evil Geniuses. And I even went over in a previous episode. Alex Garfield, talked about how disappointed he was when the Dota 2 team um, abandoned North America, abandoned the roster that they had, and went with the Brazilian roster, or not Brazilian, the South American roster. Which, don't get me wrong, the South American roster has been good so far. I don't know how strong the South American region is in comparison to the rest of the world. Um, but they didn't really give a whole lot of they didn't really commemorate all the things that people like Arteezy had done. Arteezy had been with Evil Geniuses for so long, and Alex Garfield was just frustrated with how everything's been managed and tried to be respectful about it, but frankly was just very upset and frustrated with how his creation had been abused, and just turned into something that it never was supposed to become. Going from something so amazing to something so shit. And at the end of the day, you have to look at who's in charge, and it's Nicole, and it's her fault. It's just her fault. Um, you know, she is the head of the management, and so when things are going to shit, you look to the leader. And unfortunately, Nicole has done a horrible job, um, especially with the CSGO division. They are one of the worst teams in Counter Strike history, when you look at the past two or so years, if not the worst. Um, I think they have something like a 20 something percent series win rate, barely over 30% map win rate, just utterly horrific results. Um, and she just doesn't care. She just has no care in the world. Um, and it's extremely disappointing. She's unqualified. She knows nothing about Counter Strike. She knows nothing about Dota 2, I would imagine. She knows nothing about Valorant, I would imagine. I'm sure the only esport she knows anything in is probably League of Legends, and even then, I'm sure it's not that much. Um, and frankly, that's not the biggest issue in the world as long as you hire the right people. But she doesn't. She doesn't hire the right people. She hires the wrong people. She gives the wrong people power. And when those people abuse that power, she doesn't do anything to criticize them, to correct their mistakes, to fire people when it crosses the line. She doesn't do those things because she doesn't care. Um, she just doesn't. And it's just sad because I don't think Alex Garfield would have done this. I don't think Alex Garfield ever intended for his creation to turn into this blob of just shit, because that's just what it is now. It's just a blob of shit. It's just really upsetting to see. It's just really upsetting to see. And I'm trying to think of everything that I wanted to say. It's just so hard to keep everything in order. But um, it's just been so mismanaged, so awful. It's hard really to it's just not what I expected, like, at all. She just continues to make the wrong decisions. I think a big thing, for example, is she always knows how to give the good PR answer without actually changing anything. I can't count how many times she said that the EG CSGO team will be better and that she doesn't tolerate mediocrity before just making the roster more mediocre, and not doing anything to improve. Um, you know, I think it's she clearly has a lack of respect for Alex Garfield and the previous history of Evil Geniuses. I think that's clear by some of the times where players get released. Like Cirque got released and he didn't really get like a special montage or a massive thank you for all the years he spent with the team. He didn't get any of that. Um, the most glaring one is obviously the Dota 2 team, where they transitioned away from players they've had with them for a while, players like Arteezy and Crit, um, and they got rid of that team, and they didn't really make a big deal about it. They just kind of dropped them suddenly. I think there's a reason why Evil Geniuses, basically their reputation has been absolutely ruined in every single esport that they're in. And I think, look, when you look at the end of the day, you have to, everything goes to the top, and Nicole is to blame. She's to blame for this. She's to blame for having to suffer for this many years watching shit teams in our in esports, and it's just, it fucking hurts. It just fucking hurts. Um, and like I said, maybe she's probably a great person in person, but um, with the way that she's handled this brand and this organization, it's just been shit. Without any amount of respect for um, you know what made Evil Geniuses Evil Geniuses. Because frankly, I know it better than she does, and I'm sure anyone who knows what I'm talking about when I even mention the name Alex Garfield, when I mention their history in Call of Duty and their history in Counter Strike. Like I don't think Nicole could have even. I don't think she even knew the history of EG in CS. Um, I don't know that she could name 3 players that were on that old roster. Um, it's just sad. It's just really sad. Um, and again, the amount of false promises, the amount of time she said she's going to improve the roster and nothing gets done. I'm done with the excuses. I'm just done with them. Um, they had plenty of opportunities to sign top talent. They refused to do it. I don't think Nicole cares about CSGO. I frankly don't know that she cares about anything other than Valorant and League of Legends. I think if you told her right now, you could get rid of both of those teams, the Dota 2 and CSGO team, and um, just only focus on Valorant and League of Legends. I think she'd do it. I don't think she actually cares at all. I just don't. I'm done believing in this. I'm done. I'm done with the excuses and the lies. I'm just done. Um, I don't care how nice she is as a person. You've had enough chances. I'm tired of it. If I think of anything else, I'll mention it. But moving on, the the one that I'm going to be heated on the most, and this is also Nicole's fault. How GamerDoc still has a job, how Danny Engles even still has a job. Um, you know, uh, it's just shit. How Stewie 2K had a job for as long as he did, that's also Nicole's fault. Um, but GamerDoc, I could go on for hours about how incompetent, disrespectful, unprofessional she is. She's racist. She's sexist. These are all proven things. She's tweeted about them herself. She hasn't apologized. Still, she hasn't apologized to Kassad. Neither has Danny Engles. He hasn't apologized either. Or actually, I don't know that Danny was the one who tweeted about Kassad. I think that was oh, what's his name? I can't remember his name, but he's on um fuck, I can't remember his name. I think he might be with he's with the management, I think, in some way, but I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But regardless, GamerDoc. I have never seen somebody. Frankly, I'm so shocked she has a job. Like to this day, I don't know how many times I have to mention how shocked I am that she still has a job. But if you did this in any other company, you would just be fired, like right off the get go, the first time it happened. But she just keeps getting away with it because I assume because she's friends with Nicole. That's the only thing, and that's another thing against Nicole. Like, you know, uh, how can you? Why are you still? Why, Nicole, why are you giving her so many chances? I just don't get it, man. She's just rotten to the core. Like, I just don't get it at this point. GamerDoc made a tweet today that absolutely blew my fucking mind because it works on so many levels. She goes, "Life is never fair. Scratch, claw, do whatever you need to do to get to where you need to go. Feel no shame. You've got it." The first thing that comes to my mind is you should feel plenty of shame for how you've acted. Do whatever you need to do to get to wherever you need to go. Explains a lot about your morals and ethical standards. Like, so you just kissed Nicole's ass to get to where you are. Director of performance. EG is shit. And it's your fault. You had Kassad on a silver platter. And you said no. What? You had Zeus as a coach. And you treated him like shit. Like, how can you be this stupid? I just don't understand. And it's just every time. That's just one tweet. She makes tweets all the time. She disrespected Pimp and called him a shit analyst. Fuck, she questioned the integrity of all the analysts on blast. Did she apologize for that? No. Did she apologize to Kassad for being racist and sexist to him when she said that it was another old white man lecturing her about something? Did she say anything about that? Did she apologize to Kassad for saying those things? No. No, she didn't do that. She doesn't apologize for anything she does wrong because she knows she can say whatever she wants and get away with it. That Nicole won't punish her. Nicole won't do anything to her. GamerDoc is so stupid. Okay, she's the director of performance for Evil Geniuses, right? Talks a lot of well, she talks a lot about the Counter-Strike team when they win, but not when they lose, right? Bigs up about how the Blueprint project is a pipeline for success and talent. It's just amazing. Oh my god, look at the Blueprint. We're beating the number one team in the world. We're great. We're fantastic. But we'll only say it when you win. Where has she been the past, I don't know, 3 weeks when the team has lost consistently? Have you seen her be like, well, listen, guys, we might have lost some series, but the Blueprint project is still good, and here's reasons why it could be good, and you got to think on a higher level. And no, she doesn't defend it. She doesn't defend the players. She doesn't defend the coaches. She doesn't defend anyone when they're losing. She only bigs them up when they're winning because she doesn't know fucking anything about Counter-Strike. The only thing she knows how to do about Counter-Strike is going to HLTV.com and search up the results. She probably couldn't even name the entire fucking 15 players, the 20 players on the roster if you want to include the female team, but mainly the 15 players on the roster. She probably couldn't even tell you who they are. She probably couldn't even tell you the map pool in Counter-Strike. Probably couldn't even tell you, like, the map pool. Couldn't tell you which gun is used more, the A4, the A1. She couldn't fucking tell you. She literally couldn't tell you. She would not be able to tell you anything about Counter-Strike. She can't. She doesn't understand it. She doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about. You know how I know this? Because last year, at the end of last year, she made a tweet saying that she literally didn't know how to buy stickers because she wanted to buy EG stickers. She didn't know how to buy stickers on the Steam marketplace. She knows nothing. Nicole knows nothing. These people are stupid. They don't understand what they're in. How can you be in an industry and make important decisions for your business in an industry without even trying to understand it? Like, it just boggles my mind. How do you do these things and just think that it's fine? Especially the one with the analyst. Like, dude, GamerDoc, like, listen, you can say she can listen, as much as I like hate the fact that she won't that she said what she said about Kassad, and that was especially when she went sexist and racist and all that shit on Kassad. Because, like, also, by the way, Nicole, for someone who claims that you care about the LGBTQ plus community and women and all this shit, you clearly don't. And I'll get into why Evil Geniuses doesn't care about those things, even though they claim to in a second. But, um, but like, if you actually cared about people not being racist and not being sexist and homophobic and all this other shit, then the second that GamerDoc made that tweet to Kassad, you would have fired her, or you would have, yeah, well, actually, yeah, you would have just fired her. You would have fired her, but you didn't because you're friends with her, and so you don't give a fuck about what she does. She just gets to move on and do whatever the fuck she wants because we're friends. We're friends. So she gets to stay and say whatever the fuck she wants on Twitter, even though it's just fucking obliterating the reputation of the team. I didn't get to listen to the whole thing of this, but Talking Counter did a great episode where they talk about EG and they talk about the employees with EG, and they basically just say, look, it's an ambitious project, but we're going to talk about the team depending on how well they play. If they play like shit, we're going to tell you they play like shit. And the reason why EG is unlikable isn't because the team isn't only because the team is shit. That's not the only reason why the reputation is bad. It's also bad because you guys just can't help but talk shit all the fucking time on Twitter about how great you are, or taking shots at the community members, people like Thorin, people like Kassad, people like Pimp. You just can't help yourself but but disrespect these people in the scene. Highly respected people. Like, GamerDoc's the kind of person who criticizes the analysts, right? Who criticizes the analysts in Counter-Strike, and then fucking probably couldn't even name all of the analysts. Probably couldn't even name them. Probably doesn't even know who the fuck they are or their history. She probably has no idea that while she was talking shit to Pimp, that Pimp was a major finalist and played on Team Liquid and played at the highest level of Counter-Strike at one point. And that she's dissing people like Maniac, who is a legendary French player. Like, it's just, oh my god, it's mind-boggling how stupid she is. I can't express. I don't know how many times I have to express basically that she's just not. She shouldn't have a job. I could do a better job than she could. You could do a better job than she could. I think fucking anybody could do a better job at this point. Because guess what? If you did absolutely nothing in GamerDoc's position, you've done better. Because GamerDoc has just lowered the reputation of this team so fucking bad that it's just irreparable almost at this point. Like, the only way it could get better is if the team performs well and people really start to like HexT and Wiz and all these other guys and the coach. And even then, that's not even GamerDoc doing that. That's the fucking players and the coaches doing good work and getting rewarded for it. Um, I don't know how many things she has to say before she gets fired, but at this point, I'm just willing that she will never get fired and she can keep her job for the rest of eternity. And Nicole will do nothing about it. She will not criticize her. She won't say anything bad about her because they're buddies, and so she gets to do whatever the fuck she wants. Even when it comes to disrespecting members of the community that are highly respected within the scene, to the point where she's not even disrespecting them. She is literally attacking their character and their integrity and their livelihood just because she watched one series and she watched one time when they talked about her team. Do you think that she listened to the rest of the analyst desks for the other matches? Do you think she even GamerDoc has watched any other Counter-Strike matches besides when EG plays? She probably hasn't. Like, maybe she has, but she probably hasn't. And if she has, it's probably not very many. Um, I don't think she could tell you who won the last major. I don't think she could tell you who won the major before that. I don't think she could tell you who the best team of last year was. Like, I don't think she could tell you any of this shit. If she did, she'd have to look it up. She probably doesn't even know Twist is North American. I could go on and on about the shit she doesn't know, because frankly, there's too much of that. Um, it's just atrocious. It's just atrocious, and I don't know how she has a job. I don't know what to say. I don't know how she has a job. How she has a job. Um, holy fuck. I'm just mauling so bad. I'm trying to get all my thoughts here because I want to say everything. I want to say everything that I feel about this whole thing, and really hit all the points I want to talk about, but it's just all coming in and going out and flooding in and out, and I just don't even know. Um, it's just so crazy. Um, yes, the HexT situation. The HexT situation. Now, I won't lie. Out of all the things that Thorn talked about, I think this was the only one that I think he went a little bit too far on. In the sense that, look, from a journalistic standpoint, it's completely reasonable for him to post this as a story. He's a journalist. You post the truth. I get it. I get it. Um, and it is a true story, and especially when you consider the fact that um, it's not really directed at HexT. It's more so directed at how poor Nicole is at managing evil geniuses. And I do think that although this story was posted, and then although I do think it was slightly distasteful in the sense that Thorin is posting this knowing what HexT is going to receive. He's probably going to receive death threats. He's probably going to receive some very fucked up messages. and get a lot of hate for this. It could damage not only his reputation within the community, but it could potentially cost him his career. I would like to hope that's not the case, but it could be the case. We've seen a lot less do a lot more. For example, players get VAC banned for using cheats when they're 12 in a private server, and next thing you know, they can't play at a major for the rest of their career. We saw Ocelot get fucking fired from, or have to step down as CEO of G2 Esports for posting a picture on Twitter. And then the guy who replaced him, ironically, is actually also someone who shouldn't even be in that position. But that's besides the point. Basically, my point being, you get hit with any amount of you know scrutiny like this, or a hit to your public image like this, you can best be sure there's going to be Reddit threads criticizing him. There's going to be people sending him him and his family nasty messages. Um, it's probably going to happen, and it's really sad to see, and it shouldn't be that way. And that's the only thing that I find distasteful about it, is just knowing that no matter what, even if it's without the intention of hurting Hex, and it's more so to go at the EG management, I do think posting this knowing that there is going to be this type of casualty with this young of a player is a little bit distasteful. Now, what I will say is EG could have made this better, right? They could have made this better, and protected Hext, and they chose not to. They chose not to protect Hext. They chose not to say anything about the situation before the story was posted. They were given warning that the story would be posted, and EG did absolutely nothing about it. And I don't think Nicole did anything about it because, well, nothing got released until the story broke. Um, and so, from that standpoint, it's just like, why are you not protecting your player there? Why are you not trying to do anything to help him? Um, it's just fucked up and it's wrong. So from that standpoint, fuck you, Nicole, and fuck you, EG management, for not doing anything to protect this man, um, this young man from unjustified, probably death threats, because nobody should be judged upon what they did when they're 13 years old. Yes, they were insensitive tweets, but it happens to everyone, and anyone who says that they're disappointed or disgraced by what Hex has said, you clearly haven't played an online video game ever in your life, because much worse things get said just in the heat of gameplay in any online video game. Um, it's just how it is. You take it on the chin and you move on. Um, and so Hex doesn't deserve this. I really hope he's doing okay. I hope everything is okay with the EG team, because I actually do believe that the Counter Strike team does fucking care, and they do put in the work, and they do try, and they really want this team to be good. And it's not the player's fault. But yeah, Hex just doesn't deserve to be a casualty in this. It's fucked up. Um, but I will say, fuck you, EG management, for not protecting him in this situation. I think you have to, and you tried to call Thorin's bluff, and you clearly fucked up. Um, and for that, you guys are dumb. Um, but yeah, I mean, look, the main thing that they're trying to get at, that Thorin was trying to get at with this particular story, is that Nicole had made a post basically saying, or when she joined the organization, that she wouldn't support anyone who has a history of being, against the LGBTQ plus community, being racist, sexist, homophobic, anything like that. She wouldn't tolerate it. And then obviously they signed Hext, and Hext had made tweets in the past. I would argue there's even more stories you could go with. Um, for example, partnering up with Riot Games. Um, Partnering up with Riot Games is obviously you're partnering up with China, so that's not a good thing. But additionally, and this one is even more egregious in my mind, because you actually have a choice, right? Like if you want to be in League of Legends, if you want to be in Valorant, you basically don't have a choice but to partner up with Riot Games. But for Counter Strike, you don't have to partner with ESL. You do not have to be with ESL. You can just go through open qualifiers and make it through there. And yes, it's significantly more difficult. But if you really cared about the LGBTQ plus community, and women in general, and all this other shit, you wouldn't be partnered with ESL. You would go through the open qualifiers. You wouldn't partner with Blast. You would go through the open qualifiers and go through the showdown every time, because that's a choice. And you're not going to do that. Why? Because you don't actually give a fuck about those values. You just care about, you know, getting money and making money. And that's all you actually care about, because you're a business and you're not a family. Like, you lie to everyone and try to pretend that you are. Like every organization tries to pretend that they are, which I'll get to in a second. Um, but but that's what they're trying to get at, is that Nicole claims she supports one thing, but really doesn't really do much. Guys, the most that EG has ever done to support the LGBTQ plus community is they have merch and they signed Sonic Fox. Beyond that, they haven't done anything. And spoiler, no organization cares about that stuff, even if they claim they do. For fuck's sake, organizations said they claimed that they cared about the Ukraine incident, and all they did was change their logo colors to match the flag of Ukraine, as if that does fucking anything. You haven't heard any of these organizations donate to charity or donate to a cause. You don't hear that. Oh, it's almost like because they don't have the money to do that because they're losing money all the time, and even though they're willing to spend money on other bullshit that doesn't really that's not nearly as important as the Ukraine incident or whatever else they want to contribute to, they just won't do it because they don't actually give a fuck. Um, but but yeah, so I feel horrible for HexT. This isn't something that he should have to be dealing with. And I am mostly disappointed with the organization for not defending HexT. When you claim you're a family and then you let HexT get pummeled like this when you clearly could have done something about it, it's wrong. And you haven't done your job, Nicole. You haven't done your job. Um, and it's wrong. And it's messed up. And if that's how you treat people, it's disappointing, honestly. Um, and so the last thing I'm going to talk about, as I've kind of been all over the place, my head's not really thinking straight, and that's why this video has been so disorganized. And I'm sure I'm forgetting things that I want to say, um, because I'm just so scatterbrained at the moment, because all this is just so recent and so vivid, but not so vivid in my mind, and it's really hard to talk about something like this when I want this to be better. Um, it's the idea of family in corporations. Because I've seen this many times, even from EG fans claiming that EG is a family and we're a family, we need to stick together. And EG is one of the organizations that is just a criminal offender of claiming they're a family. Um, and I just think it's completely disingenuous and objectively wrong. And here's why. And I think, I generalize this as a family in corporations because there's a lot of businesses that do this, and I think people need to understand that it's not even remotely possible for a corporation to treat employees like family. Um, and here's why. Because there's a difference between treating employees like real human beings and caring about them and treating them like a family. When you treat somebody as a family, um, it means you are willing to put your life on the line for them. It means when they make mistakes, instead of firing them, you work with them. And that means you always work with them. Um, Basically, you don't fire them because you would never fire a family member. So that by definition means that you can't be a family in a business, right? Um, and when a corporation says that they treat everyone like family, what they really mean is that they treat people like human beings and they actually care about the people that work for them. That's what they really mean when they say that they're a family. However, Evil Geniuses does not fall under this category, and a simple explanation, just go look at the League of Legends Danny situation. Obviously, not all the details have been released, but many things have been leaked and rumored, and it's not looking too good. In fact, there was a big rumor a couple months ago that Danny's family even tried to sue Evil Geniuses. I don't know what the specifics are with that particular situation, but this clearly is a problem and is goes very much against, um, you know, uh, being a family and treating your players and employees like family. Also, do you treat Malek like family? Did you treat Malek like a family member? I don't think you did. I really don't think you did. I think you treated him like shit, and he was grateful, and he, for some reason, decided to rejoin. God bless his soul. Um, did you treat Cirque like family? Did you really? Did you? I don't know. Um, I question a lot of things when it comes to people saying that they treat people like family, because the obvious thing is you wouldn't fire your family members. You wouldn't do that. Um, you know, it's just it's objectively not how you would treat family. And so I think people fail to understand the difference between treating someone like a human being and treating somebody like a family member. Because when you say a family member, it means you're willing to die for that person. It means you're willing to put everything on the line for that person, um, and that that you will always, love and respect them, and you know, do anything you can to help them. And that's just not how businesses work. That's just not the way the world works. Um, if Nicole really, you know, thought of all her players as family, why isn't she defending HexT? Why was HexT left to suffer through this? Why is he in the situation that he's in? Because you didn't do your due diligence. You didn't do your due diligence. Sorry, you didn't do your due diligence, and you didn't treat him like family. You didn't. What you did was you let this kid suffer through this by himself, right? You could have stepped in. You could have said, "Hey, wait. Let us give our 2 cents on this first. Let us protect him." Same with Danny. Did you protect Danny? I don't know what you did. How about EG White? How about those young kids who are being deceived into joining a team that they think is going to give them the opportunity to join a top team, when in reality all that it does is limit them into participating in CCT tournaments that have nowhere else to go. They can't compete in a major. They can't go anywhere else. They're better off going to ATK. There's no point in joining Evil Geniuses White. You don't want to be on EG White. There's nothing for you to do on EG White but sit there on a shelf and do nothing. Are those the kind of people? Are you treating them like family? How about the people on the 10-man Valorant roster? What's the point of having a 10-man Valorant roster? I understand that maybe you might have players who can perform the same roles, and so when one player is struggling, you can alternate them for a different player, or perhaps they have a different playstyle that would fit better with how the team is currently thinking about the game, and so you might want to switch to that player. That makes sense. But what are the other 5 players on the roster supposed to do when they're not playing? There's no other tournaments to participate in like there is in Counter-Strike to some degree. It's a closed circuit. They can't compete anywhere else. They can only compete with those other people in EG. What are they supposed to do exactly? They're just supposed to sit on the shelf and do nothing? How are they supposed to prove to people that potentially they could be signed elsewhere? They're just sitting there on the shelf until they get called upon. And the chances are they may never get called upon. Are you treating them like family? Are you giving them the best opportunity to showcase who they are? To give them a chance at making a salary on a top team? To progress in their careers? Are you treating them like family? Are you? Because I see the posts on Twitter from the family members of the parents of some of these EG teams, and they're very supportive of Evil Geniuses. But I question if they truly understand what it is they're getting into. Do they truly understand how the scene works? I saw one of the parents just today compliment Riot Games for everything they do and making children's dreams come true. If there's one thing that Riot Games shouldn't be applauded for, it's that. Do these parents truly understand what their kids are involved in? I do wonder that. I do wonder if Nicole is just really good in these talk rooms, man. I just I don't know. I question these things. I do. Because when I see the stuff that happens to Hex, when I see the stuff that happens to Danny, I think, well, why can't that just be anybody else? Why are these EG White players on this roster? They shouldn't be here. They're not being treated like family. They're put in a cage. They're put in a cage to look across the pond and see their EG Black brethren playing in games and moving up into the main roster. That's what they get. And then eventually they get kicked for no reason. the whole point of EG White is probably to just sell them off to the next team that wants to join North American Counter-Strike, which, spoiler, is going to be fucking nobody until something good happens in North American Counter-Strike. I question why EG stresses that they're a family, because I don't think any corporation is. I think it's all about money. And while you can treat your employees like a human being, like a real person with empathy and with care and respect, I think you can do those things. I don't think you can cross the line of family. That's just a line that can't be reached. It's not something that can be reached by an employer. It just isn't. There's a big difference between treating somebody like a good employee and treating somebody like a family member. And I don't think people fully understand what that is. A lot of people fall into the trap of saying that corporations have core values that they really agree with. Things like being honest and respectful and supporting communities, minorities, LGBTQ plus communities. But they don't actually mean those things. They don't. EG doesn't. I don't care what they tell you. They don't. They just don't. And if you want to know why I can say that, it's because they're partnered with ESL, who's owned by the Saudi Arabian government. And that's a choice. Even the League of Legends and Valorant teams are a choice. They don't have to be a part of those esports. They don't have to be, but they are. You want to know why? Because they don't care about those values. They don't care. They don't care. They may say they care, but they don't care. Look at GamerDoc. She's sexist and racist. No punishment for that. They don't care. They don't care. They're partnered with ESL. ESL is owned by the Saudi Arabian government. They don't treat women well over there. They don't treat LGBTQ plus community very well over there. But they're partnered with ESL, and they will continue to be partnered with ESL because it's the only way that they can play games, and they're just banking that Counter-Strike will blow up and that they can just kind of ride the wave up without actually improving the team. If she did care about those things, if Evil Geniuses did care about those things, they wouldn't be a part of it. They wouldn't be a part of ESL. They wouldn't be a partner team with Blast or ESL. They would go through the open qualifiers like all the other unpartnered teams. If they really cared, that's what they would do. But they don't. You know, the most that EG has done to support those communities is what? They've got a flag on their store. It's always funny to me that people think that by having merch that's like LGBTQ plus related, that's somehow supporting the community. It's like, if anything, that's just like a cheap cash grab. Like, yes, pay us money. Pay us money to put some colors, some multicolored things on our brand. Like, we'll create T-shirts that are for the LGBTQ plus community to support them, right? And you can pay us money and preach that we actually care when all we did was create a T-shirt. Like, am I wrong? Am I wrong? You're paying them, right? Fans who buy this stuff. You're paying them to make T-shirts. They're not doing anything for the LGBTQ plus community. At most, they're gonna say we support them. That's pretty much it. They're not doing anything to support that community. They don't care. Again, the clear and obvious way you can tell that they don't care isn't the HexT situation. It's the fact that they're partnered with ESL. It's that simple. And by the way, guys, this isn't just Evil Geniuses. This is every esports organization that claims that they care about these values when they don't. Be very careful when you say that you believe in the values of an organization. Look at their actions, because their actions typically speak much more volumes about their core values than what they say. Nicole can say as much as she wants about her being treating people like family and, supporting minority groups. But clearly, the actions don't say that. At least the actions that EG is taking surely don't say that. Just like most of the other organizations, like Cloud9, they signed Russian players when they clearly shouldn't have done that. They gave money to the Russian government through a third party, right? I don't think people truly understand just how rotten this industry is. I don't think parents understand how rotten this industry is. And I think it's important to know just how rotten this industry is. And so don't get suckered into an organization telling you that they're family. Because you could be the next Hext or Danny. You could be the next person that they just scrape off the bottom of their shoe. The next oboe, right? Who they just release him from the roster and we come to find out later that he has serious mental health issues and who knows if they even did anything about that. I just I don't know. It's just sad and depressing to think about, and it's just wrong. It's just so wrong, and I don't blame the players or the coaches. I don't. Most of them, obviously. You have the exceptions like Stewie 2K and whatnot, but I don't blame the coaches or the players who are trying and are putting in the effort. I think they're pretty innocent in all this. Um, you know, Um, but the management behind Evil Geniuses is rotten to the core, and it all needs to go away. It all needs to go away. They've destroyed this organization, the organization that I loved. The reputation that they had built is gone from every esport. It's just gone. Nobody cares. EG's a joke. There's no good reputation for Evil Geniuses. It doesn't exist. Um, the reputation is terrible. Their management behind it is terrible. The way they treat people is terrible. There is nothing good about this organization. The only thing that's good about this organization is some of the players that we have that are very, people like Jojo Pyun who seem to be good people, funny people, right? Um, people like Vorborg, for example, who's a very, very, very kind person, um, and puts in a lot of work. I think Nealon is an incredible. I could go on and on about these players and some of these coaches. Um, I actually do think that the CS:GO, I hope now that with now Valen's taking the role of kind of, Valen's kind of taking the reins of the CS:GO division. I hope he's the one in charge and not people like Andy Barton and fucking GamerDoc and fucking Danny Ingles and Nicole. I hope none of those people are making fucking decisions anymore around the CS:GO team. I hope it's just Valen's because he actually knows what the fuck he's talking about. He actually has played Counter-Strike for once in his fucking life. Um, I hope Valance has control over everything, and I hope that the coaches that we have input in what decisions are being made, and I hope this applies for every esport that EG is in at this point. I don't think it's obviously the case because the track record is so bad, but I would like to. I want an organization where the coaches have power and the players have less power than the coaches, so the coaches can determine the systems. And at that point, if the system is bad, yes, maybe then you fire the coach, but the coach should have as much control as available to him, especially if you're going to scapegoat him in the end, like Nicole and GamerDoc and Danny Ingles have clearly shown that they're willing to do with Malek, who is one of the nicest people in fucking esports. Um, so look, again, I'm hopeful for the management of the CSGO team from the coach standpoint, from the Valens standpoint, from the players standpoint. I think they actually care. I think Breezy cares again. This is stuff I'll probably talk about in the CSGO portion, but um, in terms of does EG treat people like family? I don't think so. Um, I don't think so. Does any corporation treat people like family? I don't think so. Um, do esports organizations and evil geniuses do they care about the LGBTQ plus community? Do they care about racism and sexism and all these other things? No, they don't. They claim they do, but they don't. And when their employees do things against those values, do they punish them? No, they don't. Um, the most they're willing to do is create merch that you buy. They're essentially selling out the community to you, and then you're buying the merch and going, I'm so glad that they understand how I feel about this. You're giving them money, guys, to do that. For fuck's sake, like I said, the most esports organizations did with the whole Ukraine incident is they changed the color of their logo to yellow and what's Ukraine's colors again? Isn't it yellow and I don't want to say green. Is it blue? I think it's blue. Yeah, yellow and blue. That's all they did. They just changed their colors to yellow and blue and said, "Oh, we support them" on a tweet, and that was it. Um, these people know nothing. They don't get it. And if you're a fan, don't fall for this trap. Don't fall for it. Don't you fucking do it. Don't do it. It's best to stick with your to following the players and following the coaches because the management is shit and should all be gone. Frankly, they're all just terrible. Um, you know, and at the end of the day, Nicole's to blame. She's the ringleader. So I'm personally fucked off with the entire management behind this team, behind this organization. Um, it hurts me, but it's just reality. And I'm disappointed with Nicole. I'm disappointed with all the management staff, really. I mean, obviously, there's many people there that I don't know, and I'm sure some of them are okay, and some of them are good people. But I feel bad for the players. I feel bad for the coaches. I feel bad for the the parents of these players who are just gonna fall victim to this shit because it's just wrong. It's just wrong and sad. Um, and look, more news is going to come out in the pressing weeks and months, I'm sure, especially stuff about the Danny situation, which, as much as I want to hear it because I want to hear the truth, I'm scared to hear it because um, if it's anything like what happened today, while this information is new in my head, if it's anything as surprising as what I heard and learned today, um, I'm terrified for to see how they treated that young man. Um, I truly feel horrible. And right now I feel horrible for Hext. Hex shouldn't have to live through this. Hex shouldn't have to deal with this right now. It all could have been not avoided because I think the story would have came out anyway. Um, it just would have come from EG's standpoint, and EG would have tried to soften the blow, as it were. Um, but EG didn't. They didn't do that. They didn't care enough. So yeah, I apologize for such a negative episode. I apologize that this is such a negative and depressing thing. And I won't lie, guys. Like a lot of this, I'm sure I haven't said everything that I wanted to say, and I haven't phrased this in the best way that I want to. And part of that is just because this information is so fresh. It literally, as I'm recording, came out literally today, and so it's hard for me to really put everything together in a cohesive way. Um, but but yeah, so I apologize for that. And we'll move on to the Counter Strike section. Um, but yeah, it's just disappointing and sad. So hey guys, welcome to the Counter Strike portion. Bringing current in for the discussion. Won't be talking any management here. Thank fuck. That shit's depressing, and I don't want to talk about it anymore. But if you were hoping that the Counter Strike would be less depressing, you would be unfortunately mistaken, as EG had one of the worst weeks you could probably have. As I said a couple weeks ago when we beat Heroic, this might be one of the best EG weeks we will ever have. And I said it doesn't happen very often, so enjoy it while it lasts. Well, guys, it's officially gone. This week was pretty brutal. Um, not gonna lie, we got knocked out, bounced out of the Katowice playing pretty quickly. Didn't win a single map. Um, and then If you were woke up, if you were stayed awake for a surprise and found out we were playing in CCT Europe, well, you woke up in the morning to a rude awakening as we lost to Illuminar 2-0 in what should have been a 2-0. Um, in fact, you could very easily argue that we should be in a recent win streak of 4 maps in a row. Well, wouldn't technically happen that way because if we had beaten Sprout, we would have played another series. But we definitely shouldn't have lost the last 4 maps that we've played. Um, it's weird. I'm sure we'll talk about map pool when we'll probably talk about map pool when we get done with everything. That way, it's like a nice little summary of like where we think the team's at.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
but it's yeah, map pool is still a little weird for me. Don't really know where we're gonna go with that, but we'll get there in a second. I guess the first thing is expectations for this week were, I think, undoubtedly to at the very least win a series. I mean,
Yeah,
or I should say win a map. Um, look, maybe you could have argued you could have seen EG losing to Sprout. Sprout's a pretty good team. They're actually pretty underrated considering the talent they have on their roster. And refresh seems to be a pretty decent IGL, surprisingly. Um, but still in the fashion that they lost is just disappointing. Um, and we'll get to the Illuminar thing in a bit. With CCT, that's a whole nother Jesus H Christ. But yeah, anyways, moving into the first map. So actually, I was wrong. I thought that EG could potentially only play 2 best of 1s, but it's actually that they played a best of 1 with Fnatic, and then they played a best of 3 in the lower bracket. I didn't realize the lower bracket was entirely best of 3s. Um, but for starters, they played Fnatic in a best of 1. A little bit of listen. Vorborg is just having the Copenhagen Flames tour as he plays every single previous player that he has had. Um, it just continues to move onward. At this point, you know, the only thing that could go that he could play against, I think, at this point, the only player I think he hasn't played against is Hooksy, which
yeah,
good luck doing that. You got to play well enough to play Hooksy, as Hooksy's G2 is now like the fucking best team in the world. It feels like they haven't lost a fucking map all year. Um, but yeah, as for this particular series, there's really not a whole lot to mention, at least at least in this particular game. So it ended up going to Inferno. This was what I can't speak. This is what Evil Geniuses did in their map veto. They removed Vertigo. Fnatic removed Anubis. I'm assuming that's their permaban. Fnatic then removed Ancient. Probably didn't want to have to play EG on Ancient. EG removed Overpass, which is shocking. EG removed Mirage, which is also shocking in the sense that I think EG actually really likes to play Mirage. Um, Fnatic then removed Nuke. They had a choice between Nuke and Inferno, and I would presume they didn't want to pick Nuke because, EG actually looks pretty decent on Nuke, and in, honestly, Inferno just looks like EG's worst map compared to with all the maps that they play. But EG left it in the pool, which I know is a big talking point that you wanted to have. Um,
hmm
but yeah, so I guess look, I'm surprised they banned Overpass and Mirage. Um, is that really my? I think that's my only. I think the biggest surprise is they banned Overpass and Mirage and they left Inferno. Especially considering how bad their Inferno has been, it's just been egregious.
yeah. It
So yeah,
yeah, it's silly, honestly. So I didn't know this, so I just actually found out. Fnatic does have 100% win rate on Overpass for the past 3 months, so they're actually 8-0 on
hmm,
Overpass. So we were probably looking at that and thinking
probably don't want to play them on that.
probably don't want to play him on an Overpass, but looking from the outside in, which is always skewed, right?
Yeah,
I still like our chances on Overpass over Inferno
yeah, I
because the
agree.
thing is so before we had our last two bans, things that were left were Overpass, Mirage, Nuke, and Inferno. And I don't see why we just don't ban Mirage, ban Inferno, and leave Fnatic to either play us on Overpass, which if they are, and statistically showing they are very good at Overpass, we have the opportunity to play a really good Overpass team and work on our Overpass. Or Fnatic tries to just do something goofy and play us on Nuke, which they wouldn't. But I don't know. I made that whole tweet. I was like, man, we really had a shot to force Fnatic to play us on debatably two of our best maps, and we just didn't do it. it seems like they keep just trying to shove Inferno down our throats, like doing it to ourselves.
It's the new Dust too.
Yeah, it kind of is. Yeah, and man, I just don't see it. I don't. I mean, yeah, again, I just don't see it. I don't see anything there for us
Yeah.
as
Yeah,
of right
definitely
now.
a strange decision to make considering just how poor the Inferno has been recently. Now, look, obviously they should put time and effort into it, and I get that. Maybe they were just thinking, fuck it, we'll play Inferno, we'll see how it goes, and we still have a lower bracket game, to play a best of three, so we might as well kind of, look, let's try some new things and see if we can surprise Fnatic, if they try anti-stratting us on something. Um,
Mm.
we obviously know they're going to want to go towards Inferno, so if they try to anti-strat us, maybe we'll come up with some different ideas. It didn't play out that way in the game. It was absolutely atrocious. Or I'm sorry, 12-3. Uh, EG only getting 3 rounds on their T side. It's pretty hard to
Pretty tough.
watch. Yeah, it was pretty hard to watch. Not a whole lot of promise. It seems like a big problem with EG, and this was a problem that existed last year as well. It's gotten slightly better this year, but it's still noticeable. Is you can tell EG is the kind of team that really likes to pull rotations and fuck with rotations,
Yep.
but sometimes they don't realize when they've pulled a rotation and they don't just attack. Like you'll never see EG hit a bomb site within the first 20 to 30 seconds of a round. It almost
No.
never happens. Like heroic, dude, they'll hit a bomb site. You'll look at the clock and it's 1:30. In
Oh
fact, I think I was watching OG play a team last week, and I like they had like rushed the bomb site, planted the bomb, and I looked up at the timer and it was like 1 minute and 30 seconds left, and I was like, dude, if this was EG, you'd never see that. Like that would just
no.
never happen. So that never happens, and sometimes even the casters were saying it like, oh man, if EG just hit this site right now, there's nobody there, and they just didn't have enough information to know that the site was open. Um, when it would literally be like free, it'd be like one person is there. Or sometimes they'll go hit a bomb site and they'll just get ran over by like I don't know. It's weird. They'll by the time they hit the bomb site, the rotation has come in and it's no longer even that good of a fake. Sometimes that kind of stuff happens. EG just seems to be a team that plays pretty slow and likes to catch people off. But sometimes it doesn't really work and they end up being too slow for their own good. Um, but yeah, in terms of this particular map, it was honestly pretty uninspiring. Even the players said there's not much they could take from this and that they weren't playing their game. Maybe some nerves being in that, you know, uh, Katowice Hall of Champions or whatever the fuck they called it. Maybe just I would imagine players like Hex has never played at a Hex hasn't played at Katowice before. In fact,
Wiz hasn't.
yeah, Wiz hasn't either, and
Avi
especially being
hasn't
brand
in
new.
however many
Yeah, I was gonna
years.
say, yeah, Automatic hasn't been in that kind of environment in a
I only
while.
think Nealon probably played
Nealon, I don't think he's
Kata.
been in a Katowice. Yeah, I don't know that he's been to a
If he
Katowice.
had, it had to been like a while ago with like K23.
Yeah,
Maybe
exactly.
like maybe like online Kata, but that's totally
Yeah, yeah.
different. So
Um,
yeah,
so
yeah. There's not much to really take. There wasn't anything that like you can take. There wasn't like, oh well, we saw this really good round,
we
but
won a
this didn't
pistol.
work out, right? Holy shit, did we?
Yeah, I think we did. I think we won the first pistol round of the game.
Nah, you're lying.
Yeah, we did.
Oh my
Yep.
god, we won. Oh, we won
Yeah,
both
yeah.
pistols.
Breezy got a three. Hey, that's sad, dude. We won both pistol rounds, and we still lost 16. Or we lost. Yeah, well, we lost 16-8, and we
Well,
won
you
both
know,
pistols.
we're the silver lining. We won both pistols. There we go.
Silver lining, we won both pistols. On destroying that silver lining, we lost the second round every time. It just happens so consistently with this team. We
Yeah,
just lose second
yeah.
rounds after pistols every single fucking. You can bet on it. You can literally bet on it. If you bet
Oh,
on
you could.
EG losing the second round after
You
a
could.
pistol, you'd make so much fucking money. It's insane. Also looking at the stats, dude, it is just covered by Fnatic players. It's absurd.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, in terms of player
Move on.
ratings,
It, there's just
who
not much to talk
cares?
about. I mean,
Yeah,
like
who cares?
Nealon being
Like,
the top at point 82. I mean, there's nothing to take away from this game,
yeah,
really, in the slightest, like at all. It's like,
the veto, yeah, it's just who
I mean,
fucking
the
cares?
veto, but it's like, man, yeah, we beat Complexity on Inferno, but like we said last podcast, it was just a chicken fight, right? Like
Yeah,
we had both our poor Inferno team, so someone had to win an Inferno. Um, yeah, it's just bad. It was just a bad game overall. And
Yep.
sometimes, people say you say, you learn more from your losses. No, you're not learning
Not this
jack
one.
from me. The only
Not
thing
this
I've
one.
learned is that EU Inferno is just way better than our Inferno. It could be the EU's team's worst map, and they would probably still beat us on Inferno. That's all I learned.
Yep.
Because I don't even think Fnatic plays Inferno.
I don't think they play very much. Yeah. Yeah. I'd have to look. Let's see.
No, they don't.
They
They
don't.
don't. They've played
No,
it
they
four
don't.
times, and
Yeah.
once was against us. They're 2-2, and one of their wins
I
is
told,
against us.
I knew
So
this shit was gonna get abused against us, man. I fucking knew it, and it still will. So,
I
look,
knew
I
it.
respect them practicing it in that regard. Like, you know it's gonna get picked, so you might as well try to get better at it. But yeah, not really too much to take from this one.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess moving into the Sprout series, we went down to the lower bracket. Look, it would have been a pretty tough lower bracket run anyway. Even if we beat Sprout, we would have had to beat Spirit, I believe. And they're a pretty difficult team to play, especially right now. I think they just had a
They
huge
are.
win over,
They
or
did.
who did they? Well, they beat Big. Was that today?
I believe
I
so.
think it was Big. They beat them in pretty decent fashion too, which actually Big has looked pretty good so far this year. So
Yeah, they
credit
2-1
to them.
big.
Yeah, but I'm sorry. But yeah, basically they played Sprout. Sprout is a pretty canny, they're a little decent team. Again, the Vorborg playing old players continues as they play Xiphon this time. And which, hey, look, Xiphon didn't perform that well, so like, gotta take a W when you can get it. But there were no W's in the map pool. Let's see. Looking at the veto here, Sprout removed Nuke, um, which is a pretty painful permaban for us.
Hmm.
We removed Vertigo, Sprout pick Ancient, which is a map that I was excited to see. You can still tell though, like I don't think EG has ever picked Ancient. Did they pick Ancient against Heroic? I don't think so, right?
No, no, we got
That was
countered by
Heroic,
Heroic.
right?
Yeah, Heroic picked Ancient.
So even though EG seems to be a pretty competent, honestly, Ancient team, especially because I
I
think
honestly think
Sprout,
it's one of our better maps.
yeah, I think Sprout is even a good Ancient team.
They are, yeah.
I believe if I look at the stats,
Yeah, I mean that's
it's
their
their
most
best
played
map.
map. They're 8-1. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
their
it's
best
their
map.
best map.
It's
So
to take to
I,
take them 14-16 on Ancient.
yeah,
That's pretty
and
good.
a map that we honestly should have won. Even though I think the
Yeah.
biggest downside to our ancient, well, you know what? I'll get to that in a second because let's go to the rest of the veto. Um, so Sprout picked ancient. EG picked Mirage, which is a map that, again, a lot of people are like, oh, this is weird. EG doesn't play a whole lot of Mirage. EG did play Mirage last year. They even decided that they wanted to play it against Maus during the major. It's a map they do like, but this year I haven't seen a whole lot of promise with it.
It's also Sprout's like second to least played map by
Yeah,
far.
that probably also helps. And so they went with Mirage. Sprout removed Overpass, obviously. Evil Geniuses removed Anubis and went with Inferno, which is, I think if you leave it down to Anubis and Inferno, which one is EG gonna pick? You could probably say that it's probably going to be Inferno just because EG looks like they're
Yeah.
more willing to play the map rather than Anubis at the moment. Um, but we'll get to their Anubis a little bit later. Um, but yeah, I mean, in terms of Ancient, going back to Ancient, this is a map that they honestly should have won. Uh, you know, they had a good idea kind of what to do. Man, I don't know. The only thing that really sucked to me about this map that really cost them was just not getting enough rounds on their CT side.
Yeah.
They just needed one or two more rounds on their CT side, and I think it would have been so much better for them because the T side wasn't that bad, honestly. Um, I'm trying to look here at the stats. I want to say, let's see here. Pistol round. Well, no, it wasn't that. I don't know. I can't really remember the series all that well, but I thought EG was kind of in the driver's seat. Oh, yes, I remember this. Um, EG looked actually very strong on their T side at the start of their T side. And then Sprout just kind of kept picking up some rounds. And if I remember correctly, the analyst desk, I actually disagree with the analyst desk. They were saying that they were that Sprout was kind of adapting to EG, but I didn't really feel like that. I felt like EG was kind of making the right moves and doing the right things, but just couldn't close off little one-on-one situations at the end, and there was just things that just didn't go their way. I think at one point wasn't Wiz in a 1v1 that was near the end of the second half that almost won the game. Um,
Almost.
yeah. Just
Oh yeah, no, it was like yeah, like round 28, they called like a super late B rotate.
yeah.
Wiz got a frag and like Cubby in mid. Neither was holding down red room, but we were like 2 seconds off of like
Yes,
winning.
that's what it was. Yes. Yeah, just little things just didn't go their way, and I don't think it was that bad of a performance. I actually thought it was quite good. It's just really unfortunate that they lost because they definitely could have won, and I just think they just needed just a couple more CT side rounds. Really, you can't look. You just can't start your CT side on Ancient down 5-1. It's just not. You just that's just a horrible position to be in. And even if look, they picked up some rounds in a row towards the end, but it just wasn't enough, I don't think. I think the CT side is what kind of let them down in this series. I don't think the
Hmm.
T side was that bad at all. In fact, I think they got robbed out of a couple of rounds that could have easily gone their way. So overall, I'm not really that upset with the performance. I mean, looking at the ratings of the players for this map, Launx was 1.38, but four players from EG after that are rated. In terms of like from highest rated player of of that map to the lowest rated player of that map. It's Lonks, and then it's Nealon, Wiz, Breeze, Automatic, and then it's the four,
Or
the four
Sprout and
rest of
then
the
Hex.
Sprout players, and then Hex. Like that's not that bad at all, you know. Like I mean, considering how often we talk about players not getting over a 1.0 rating, and four players did it in this one map,
Yeah.
and they still couldn't win. So in my opinion, I don't know that it was necessarily Sprout adapting. I just think they ended up winning off some one-off scenarios. EG didn't get enough rounds on their CT
Hmm.
side to really be able to afford to get enough leeway there, and it just wasn't enough. But overall, I thought it was a good map from EG.
Yeah, I think yeah. This is this is one of those maps where you probably learn more from your losses.
Yes,
Um, I mean, to go 14-16 on the map pick that you did not choose is like I think that's really huge. Um, yeah, CT side was just kind of tough. I noticed that we were playing like very retake heavy kind of CT style. We give up red room like extremely easy for whatever reason,
yep,
which I can understand because if you have somebody holding from B site long and then like Temple on A, like you can kind of just control them in red room and keep them trapped in there. But I don't like it as much personally.
definitely stressful.
Um, but being as retake heavy as we were, we actually won a lot of retakes. Like um, like round four was our first gun round win on CT side. It was like a legitimate 5v5 retake,
Yeah,
and we won that. And we had a 3v3 retake, 5v3 retake. Um, I mean, it was really good to see that we could retake sites, but at the same time, retakes aren't guaranteed. So that's like the one thing is retakes are on a timer. So I mean, if you don't get the frags to get that diffuse or pull out something out of your ass, like it's pretty rough, right? Instead of just doing a classic defend the bomb site. So that's the one thing I don't like about our CT side is how retake heavy we are. Um, but I mean, Wiz started off super hot on that CT side. It it was good. It just like you said, like if we get one or two more rounds on that CT side, this is probably a completely different game. Considering our T side looked actually really really good um, for as CT side of a map that Ancient is. I mean, we were fucking with like Sprout's rotations like heavy. I mean, Sprout like over rotated like super early a lot of the times. You would just get I mean Nealon would get like one frag on B and that would like bring the entire Sprout team over and but like we'd still like lose the round in the end, right? Like I don't know. I mean, there's a couple rounds where you can just chalk it up to Sprout being a good team. Like Long's had that like Deagle Ace or whatever,
oh
which was
yeah,
just like fucking ridiculous, right? And like when players are gonna make those plays, there's strats and whatever ideas they're out of the fucking book, right? Like when people say like, oh, you can't just plan to play against like Simple or Zaiwu because they might just do something fucking crazy and like it's just gonna work.
yeah,
Is Long's that guy typically? Probably not. But I mean, they are all pro players, so they're gonna make one of these plays. And I mean, Long's just kind of popped off on us against Ancient. I still think this was like a really good loss at the end of the day.
yeah. I agree.
Should have we won?
Probably.
probably. Yeah, but I'll take that loss over like getting stomped any fucking day of the week. I'll take the getting my hopes up that we might win this map and then we just don't edge it out at the very end over getting fucking stomped on Inferno against fucking
Yeah, I agree. I definitely
Heroic.
agree.
So I think it was a good loss. I think they'll probably look back at it and probably realize that they're not that bad of an ancient team. I'm surprised that we haven't picked it, but it could be one of those plays, right, where you leave it to the other team to decide, and if they do pick it, you probably just think it's in your favor, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, it was a good game. I mean, Wiz showed out, Nealon showed out, Breeze did really well. Automatic was like okay. Obviously, Hex didn't do as well, but I mean, when he's in the role that he is, he was kind of struggling, especially on CT side. I think he was giving up cave quite a bit, but his T side was pretty rough as well. But like that one, oh, he did get that like one D on like
Yeah.
A site, and
Yep.
it just pulled all of fucking Sprout, and it was like the I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
But no, again, it was a good loss.
Yeah.
It was a
Yeah.
loss, which still sucks, but it was a good loss overall against Sprout, who is
They're a good ancient team.
they're a good ancient team and they're a good team overall. So I mean, obviously they're not heroic, but you know
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
not
And
gonna
like,
we I think our expectations have died down at this point. That
yeah. And like ancient, or, Sprout's a good ancient, one of the, in terms of, ancient teams, they're one of the best. So, definitely not feeling too bad about that. But I mean, look, yes, I understand. EG should be winning the series in the sense of, overall, EG versus Sprout, who should win? It should be EG. And I do think EG had a very real chance of winning the series, which leads me to Mirage, where it all fell apart. This
hmm
game was the definition of a game of runs. Um, I mean, started off looking absolutely diabolically bad, with EG winning the pistol round. I know, very shocking, but in classic
oh,
EG
don't worry,
fashion,
we lost the
losing the
second
next
round.
round after that. Again, you can bet on this shit. It's absurd. Um, that happened, and then we lost the next 4 rounds in a row, and suddenly you're looking at a 5-1 score line, and you're like, well, we
It's
better
over.
fucking win around now, because if we don't, our whole fucking half is ruined. Um, EG proceeded to go on a, let's see here, 3, 6, 9, 12 round win streak going into the second half. They ended up winning out the first half 9-6. Um, or I'm sorry, not 9-6,
5.
10-5, which is a fantastic T side. I mean, you can't complain about a 10-5 T side. It may have happened in a weird fashion, but look, 10-5 is 10-5. And actually, at the time, I was actually a little confused because I was watching the game. It was 5-1. And then I had something come up with work. It was pretty busy at the time, and I had to go do something. And I came back and I saw, oh, we're in the second half, and we were up 10-5. How did this happen? And then I watched the pistol. We win that. I watched the next round. I'm like, all right, well, this is where we lose, and we miraculously win that round too. And I'm thinking, well, goddamn, we're at a 12-5, lead. Let's close and move on to Inferno. Like this is fantastic. And EG proceeds to lose. Oh geez, how many is that? Let's see, 8 rounds in a row. We get one
And then
bomb
we win
defuse and then we
one,
lose.
and then we lose.
Yeah. They just choked. Like I don't know what else. I mean, listen, Sprout played a great T side, but it just felt like rounds would end quickly as fuck. Like the amount of saves that happened was ridiculous. Like
hmm
it just rounds were just starting and finishing so quick. Um, it was so disappointing to see it fizzle out in the way that it did. Um, and yeah, just another game you should win. Like, how are you can't put yourself in a 12-5, in a 12-5 lead on your CT side and lose. That just shouldn't happen. That just should not happen on a map like Mirage.
No.
Um, Pretty disappointing in terms of individual player performances. Obviously, not as spectacular as the previous map, but Wiz looked good. I've been very impressed with Wiz. I actually didn't think Wiz was this good. I thought Wiz was solid, but not tier one ready.
We always thought he was going to be serviceable, right?
I was
You
hoping
know
he
what I
would
mean?
be serviceable, but I thought he would be like a,
Well, he's developing, I think, a lot quicker than we probably expected him to.
yeah,
Right? We were probably thinking
yeah,
like, we're going to see where he is after the major, and if issues arise, we might look elsewhere.
yeah,
But I think at this point, he's he's already shown if he can keep progressing or even just keep producing how he is now. I mean, it's still better than what Cirque was giving us last year, right?
I agree.
So,
Yeah.
which is a huge step up, especially for your opping role, right?
Yep.
I mean, Cirque was giving us below 1.0 ratings as our opper, which is just like insane. But Wiz is like shown to be a good pickup so far.
Yeah, I've been impressed with Wiz, and I think his poise in clutch situations has been very refreshing as well. He's been very good at
Post
clutches.
plant Prince, baby.
Yeah, he's been great at that. Um, and not too much to complain about with Wiz. Automatic was second in terms of rating. I, automatic is an interesting topic in the sense that I hate saying this, but I'm disappointed in automatic, honestly. Um, like I just feel like even more so than Breeze. Like, yeah, look, I understand Breeze is like the most coin flip player you've ever seen. Like, dude will either drop 25 on you or he'll drop 7, and you just don't know which one it's going to be. And it's mostly going to be off of individual skill. He's going to outduel you, and that's how he's going to get his kills. But automatic is a weird one because he, to me, should be the player who's the most consistent fragger on this team. I mean, he should be like getting you 20 plus kills every game. Um, he's an incredibly intelligent player. He's got incredible mechanics, great aim, great decision making. Has a strong mentality of just knows how to improve and is a very humble, hardworking person. It does surprise me that Automatic has been as shaky as he's been. Granted, I understand they made rule changes at the start of this year, and
Mm-hmm.
Automatic was a part of that as well. So I understand he's going to have to figure out his new roles, and I can really only hope that he figures out his roles soon, to where we can see that form from Automatic that we know we can see. Um, I particularly remember, and I know this was, playing lower competition, but I remember, dude, when we were qualifying for that major last year, Automatic was money. I mean, he would just
Oh,
drop
he was.
kills after
Oh
kills
man.
every single fucking game he played. It
It
was
seemed like he didn't give a fuck. He was like, we just gotta roll through this really fast. Let me
he
just
just
drop
shit
30
on
on these
people. I
guys.
mean, it
You know
was
what I mean?
disgusting. Yeah, it was disgusting how good he was. Um, I always remember that clutch he had on. I mean, that Mirage against Mouse was not fun to watch. But the only thing that was even remotely fun to watch was that automatic 1v3, I think it was, or 1v2, whatever it was. That was actually really fucking great to watch. But I want to see my boy automatic play like the automatic that I know he can play. And I haven't really seen that yet this year. Again, hopefully this rule changes. Hopefully he'll figure it out. But I really want to see that because I know he can do it. And if there's any player that I believe in to be the most consistent fragger on this team, it's automatic for sure.
Hmm.
Breeze obviously needs to be our second best player, um, but I'm a little bit, I understand he's going to be a little bit more coin flippy, um, you know, than the rest. And look, that is a problem. That's a valid concern about this roster as of right now. Is kind of where your frags coming from because automatic is shaky, Breeze is shaky. Wiz and Hex, Wiz has been good, but he's inconsistent because he's new. Hext, sometimes he's okay, sometimes he's not. Nealon is the same way, and I don't expect Nealon to be a top fragger. I actually do expect Nealon to be pretty okay at fragging. He's a pretty individually skilled
He's a
player.
good fragging like
Yeah, he's
IPL
a
fragger.
good individual player. But I understand he's in game leading, and so that makes things a little bit harder for him. Um, but yeah, it's just a little bit of a question mark knowing where the frags are coming from. The good news about this Mirage map was the T side definitely looked a lot better compared to what we saw, previously. Obviously, the CT side, I don't know what happened, but it fell apart. So that clearly needs some work, and that's something that I hope they'll be able to look at because Sprout played an incredible T side, and so hopefully EG can look at that and use it for improvement. Um, but I'd say overall, um, a disappointing series to lose. I'm glad that it was close,
Hmm.
but and I even said look, you could definitely argue could have been, that people were probably predicting. You could have predicted. Some people were predicting EG to win this. Some people predicted EG to lose 2-1. Um, I still think EG should have won this. And I definitely think when you look at how the maps were played, I think you could definitely make a case this should have been a 2-0 for EG. And that they should have won on Ancient and that they should have won on Mirage. But they just couldn't pull it out, unfortunately for them, and that was the end of their run at Katowice.
Yeah, I think Mirage is just such a weird. This was such a weird like map to watch. because, like you said, it was just like all runs. I mean, we were down 5-1, but then like our T side all of a sudden just got like really fucking good. I want to quote Launders as saying, "EG is actually bringing in some new shit." Oh, my bad. Sorry, that's what he said.
Oh,
Because
I
he's
don't
not
care.
allowed to cuss on air. But no,
Oh,
that yeah.
I got you.
But no, like the way we were like utilizing their rotates on T side, right, was like really impressive. Kind of like how we did on Ancient, where our default was like really strong. And I think this is kind of that high ceiling that Warburg would talk about with this kind of default type T side style. Is that if it really works out and you're able to manipulate these rotates and catch these timings, like it can look like you're a super strong T sided team. I think we saw a lot of that in the way like automatic was just being activated in mid off of like early B presence like Hex was giving. Maybe he'd get a pick or something, right, and force a rotator too. And then automatic would activate from mid and catch a rotator. And now A site's open, right? Like it looked really, really good. And then I stopped taking notes after the fourth round of CT side because like it was just it was so bad to watch. It was like you put like a 5 stack of globals versus fucking like 5 solo silvers on CT side of Mirage. And the Globals are like, fuck it, we're not gonna do any strats. We're just gonna out aim these fucking idiots. And that's exactly what happened. Because you listen to the damn interview, and I think it was Longs, right? He was like, "Yeah, Refresh kind of said he just didn't care, and we kind of just did what we wanted to do, and it fucking worked." And I'm like, I'm
When
not
all else
saying we
fails,
didn't,
throw the strap book out the window, I guess.
like, it's not like we didn't try on CT side. it was just like you can't even chalk it up to like, oh, we had like just really weird timings or like, we tried some stuff and it just didn't work, right? We didn't hit the shots. No, like we just nothing happened for us or against us in any way besides just being out aimed essentially. Like it felt like Sprout was just like running mid down our fucking throats, and whoever we had watching mid just didn't know how to shoot their fucking weapon at all. Like I don't know if we thought we were just coasting after a 10-5 half and then having the 12-5 lead or what, but yeah, it was insane. Like even I think Launders and Scrawny were even like, holy fuck, like what happened? Like we thought we were ready to go to Inferno, and
Yeah.
now Sprouts is like on this fucking roll. I will, I will give props to Breeze. Breeze had that like sick fucking like a flank clutch against Sprout. That was a pretty sick round to bring it back 13-13. But don't worry, we lost the next three and we lost the bet. Um, we had like we showed some good stuff, some decent aim on T side, right? Like we went on a hunt. Like Sprout was trying to save with like 4 guns, and we're like, nah, fuck that. We're gonna hunt these guys, and we got them, right? And it was just bad. I just don't get it. Like, how do you just let these guys like roll, absolutely fucking roll like that? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, pretty brutal.
it looked like a face it pug where people just aren't talking, but they're just gonna do their own thing, and it just works. Like, I yeah.
Yeah, it's just it was
I mean,
a
granted, again, like silver lining though, like Wiz looked really good for the
yeah,
most part. I mean, you can't say anything about CT side because everybody CT side was pretty bad, but like T side, right? Like Wiz got opening picks, he did shit. Automatic, like I said before, was like lurking in mid, and it worked really well. We were getting picks on B, getting picks on A. Like Nealon was calling a pretty strong game T side, and then we switched over to the CT side, and it's like we forgot how to play.
yeah, yeah, very
Like
strange.
even like just basic protocols seem to be missed. I mean, I won't say we didn't again, like not like we didn't try, right? We tried to even
No,
shut
no.
down doing like a mid push and stuff like that of our own, and it just didn't work out. But
Yeah,
I
there's
don't.
there's one thing I want to mention about I did see on the analyst desk they did mention something that I just don't really agree with where and look, I get it, EG has been bad for a while now, and at times in the past they definitely have looked like the motivation hasn't really been there in terms of I mean, I remember 20 early, first half of 2022. I mean, these guys would turn up to an event and you would just see no emotion, no just absolute just deadpan no
Yeah, silence.
expressions. It was just depressing as fuck to look at. You could tell they just didn't care.
Hmm.
But they did mention for this event, just they were like, wow, I just don't know if I'm seeing that much like passion or motivation from them, and I don't really agree with that.
I don't agree with that at all. No,
I think this is a different team. I think this is a different team from previous rosters, and I think that these guys actually care. Vorborg seriously fucking cares. Uh, I think Automatic cares a lot. Automatic has never been the kind of person to put in
he's never
a lack
he's
of
never been
effort.
an emotional guy either.
No, no, that is another thing
But like,
too. Is
but it's
most
not
of
like
these
he's not
players?
trying. He wouldn't leave a fucking Valorant paycheck on the table to come back
No,
if he wasn't gonna try.
no, and you do bring up a good point. Where look, a lot of these guys on this team are quiet people. It's why you need someone like Hext.
Yep.
Automatic is a quiet guy. Wiz is a quiet guy. Breeze is notoriously quiet. All these, Nealon seems to be somewhere in a happy medium, but mostly a little bit quieter. Still a little bit more quiet than some other people in the scene. Um, but so it's why you need a guy like Hex. But I do think that look, Automatic is not one to put in a half-assed effort, or to play when he's not passionate about the game. You can tell just from doing the interviews that there's so much he loves learning about the game, and he loves studying the game and finding out new things. He's mentioned multiple times that it's like he had to start relearning Counter Strike all over again, but that he loves it and that he wants to learn more. He's learning everything at every game, so I don't think it's a problem with Automatic. And he's a very self-critical person. You could tell from the interview that he had, where he mentioned that he hasn't been playing to the level that he needs to play at, and he knows there's no real excuse for that. Even with the rule changes, he said,
Right.
I shouldn't be playing this poorly. You can tell he's a person who is very self-reflective, and I appreciate that a lot. Um, Wiz being a young guy and Hex being a young guy, there's no way these players don't want to prove their worth. They definitely want to put in the best effort they can, particularly Wiz being brand new to the team.
Hmm.
Nealon, young IGL, I don't know how many times, like, this guy works so hard, especially when you know the sacrifices that he's had, being from the scene that he's from. I believe the way that it works over there, he basically, even when he was with K23, he was away from home,
Hmm.
not, being able to play with, in his own home essentially. So it's a very, obviously Nealon works extremely hard. I'm not worried about him. I mean, I literally saw like a Twitter post where he literally tweeted like, just tweeting this to remind myself how much I hate losing. Like, the guy just works hard. I have no, I don't think that's a problem with Nealon. The only person that you could even remotely guess could have a motivation issue is Breeze, just because you've seen it in the past. But I genuinely believe at this point, Breeze actually cares about improving at Counter Strike, and he actually is relearning or refinding his passion for the game. I think it's been enough time now where he wasn't in such a toxic situation that he was in with the whole Stewie situation, and even before that with Stanislaw. I think he's finally fit. He's in a situation where all the players are in a good mood. Hex brings up the mood. Vorborg is a great guy and a great coach and role model, and I think Breeze is finding his passion for the game again, and he's trying to learn. I don't think the problem with Breeze has never been the individual skill. It's been the decision making. And I think
Hmm.
when he was dropping 30 kills a map, and he was that guy, right? It was or Elysian Breeze. Those were the two guys at the top of NA. That would just drop 20 to 30 kills every single map they played. Um, I think it was a lot of it had to do with Breeze was just really involved and focused in his decision making on top of his aim within the game, and it feels like in the past couple of years it's slipped away. He hasn't been as motivated to focus on the decision making side of things, and he's so individually talented that he figured he can just out aim people. But I think that's changed, and I think he actually, listen, it's all speculation, but I do think that Breeze actually does care again about Counter Strike, and he has, hopefully found his passion for the game again, and is looking to improve and be more consistent. Um, so I did disagree with that one point when it came to the desk. Obviously, I do understand them bringing it up in the sense that, when a team is losing this badly, it's just
Well,
something
it's
that's
hard
going
to
to
find
come into
motivation
question.
when you're losing, right? Like,
Right, right. And I'm sure
and
their facial
with our
expressions weren't the
history,
best while they were
yeah,
losing.
Yeah, and I think yeah, automatic. You know, you touched on he's never been an emotional guy. He doesn't show like any facial. I think it's so funny the like clips of Hex yelling because automatic is like sitting
He's
like
right
sat
next to him,
next
right?
to him. And, like Hex is like fucking yelling his head off, and then automatic's Angle's just like
Yeah, he just
like
doesn't. Yeah,
he
no
doesn't
emotion
give
at
a
all.
fuck.
Yeah,
He's like good round, Jaden. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like and like I think Breeze probably talks more in mid rounds than it's probably caught. I mean, obviously, when you have a guy like Hex on the team, anybody that isn't absolutely yelling their brains out probably seems like a more quiet guy. I think Vorberg or somebody even had mentioned that Wiz is a little bit more quiet.
Yes,
Uh, but I think it's probably also hard, right, coming into a tier one team,
he's so
even
focused on
though
himself. Yeah.
well, even though you've probably seen these guys or talked to them and you've played against them, right? Like now you're like actually in the team, you're in a role. Like where do I fit in to actually speak up and like
Yep.
talk is definitely like probably a really difficult thing to do. But I mean, like Nealon being 22 and like trying to step up and lead his team is like really huge. I think you're right. He's more of a middle ground, but um, being that leader in that IGL, he has to talk, right? And I think Hex is that great. Uh, I don't want to compare him to Stewie, but Stewie was always Stewie was that guy on Liquid, right? When Liquid
He
was
was the
really
hype guy. Yeah, yeah, he was.
because
Yeah,
everybody was quiet on Liquid, but then
yeah.
you had
No, I,
Stewie
I, I know
fucking
what
like
you're. I
talking
know what you're
shit.
talking about. Yeah.
I don't know if this is just me or speculation or what, but ever since Hex came on the scene and started talking shit this year, I feel like I've seen so many more players like yelling
Talk
and
shit.
screaming and talking shit, and like the broadcast actually wanting to like catch it. Because it used to be like when Stewie would talk shit or something, like all the casters would be like, "Oh, you shouldn't say that," or something like that, or or like the broadcast wouldn't catch it. But now, like they're tuned. Like voice comms is like much more of a thing now
Yeah,
to listen
definitely. Yeah.
in and like catching what they're saying after a round win. I feel like Hex low key has like kind of started that trend of like talking shit. Obviously, Cadian's always been like a yeller, right? So it's really
Yep.
funny watching him
Yeah,
and Hex go
that's a
back and
funny
forth.
duo.
But like even just in like other teams' matches, right? Like when OG was playing, they were getting rowdy. Like obviously, not every team's like the get super loud as fuck type of guys, but I mean it. I don't know. I really like that out of Hex, even if he's not putting up performances. I do notice that if he's not doing well, he still kind of struggles with not yelling. Not that it has to be a requirement, right?
Yeah, but it definitely becomes a little bit harder
But
for
but
him to
but
get. You know.
but I think it helps, right? Like overall for that team morale. Like yeah, I'm not doing well, but the team's popping off. Like let's get loud, kind of thing,
Yeah.
right? But I think another huge thing that about Vorberg. Let me see if I can find it because I don't know how. I think one thing that helps is the fact how young Vorberg is
He's pretty young. Yeah.
because he's 30. I mean, you brought in a guy like Malek, right? He's 36. I'm not saying that's old, but
For
this
Counter
team
Strike
now,
terms, right?
this team now, like after dropping Rush and Stan and a lot of these older guys, right, has now transformed into like a young roster,
Yep.
right? So being able to relate to a lot of these younger guys, like like Automatic's the oldest one at 26.
Yeah.
Like this roster is now super young, which I think a lot of people also forget about is how young this roster now is. Obviously, we don't have like an 18-year-old Monacy or 17-year-old head trick, right? Like teenagers. But I mean, these guys are young. I mean, they're the same age as like you and I, like a year or two younger on some of them. Like I couldn't even imagine playing on like that big of a stage and trying
Ah.
to fucking like focus up and play this fucking game against like the best motherfuckers in the world.
Yeah.
So yeah,
One thing
and
that kind of piggybacking off of that too is like Hext. I remember I hexted an AMA before the major, and he even mentioned I had asked him basically my question to him was like, is it insane that literally 6 months ago you weren't even on this team and now you're going to the major? And he was like, I mean, he was basically like, yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, I can relate to him in some way in the sense that we're similar, we're all of similar age. And he's like, yeah, it's like it's unreal, like it's crazy to think that like
like
I'm
your
going to a
world
major.
is legitimately just like flipped upside down.
Yeah,
Like you
exactly.
go from just being like an online like pretty good player. Like I
Yeah.
don't think anybody ever saw. I think when Hex was the like pick, a lot of people were like, "Oh, it's just so they can stay like NA or whatever for."
Yeah, some people thought that,
Which
yeah.
like which was definitely like part of it.
Yeah.
And I think some people weren't sure if Hex was the right choice. Um, but now, I mean, I like Hex in this team, and but yeah, like that turns your whole fucking world upside down. Being an online player, just like on the quote unquote academy team for this tier one roster, and then you get a call like, "Hey, you're getting bumped up 6 months later. Hey, you're flying to Rio for the fucking meet." Like that's insane. Like time is like so fucking relevant. Like Wiz has been on the team for a month now. It doesn't feel.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
Automatic's been on the team for a year now, and it doesn't
Yeah.
feel.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how much of a new team this really does feel like. And I think Vorber being so young and a very nice and relatable guy definitely helps
Yeah. And
the progression, right?
also definitely committed to working hard as well.
Oh yeah. I
There
mean,
was
everybody is on this
oh
roster,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
I want to touch on like how people think Breeze doesn't try, but I mean, like
Yeah.
I don't know if I said it on this podcast before, but like I might have when we touched on Cirque a while back. Like Breeze has been through a fucking lot, man.
Oh, he has, yeah.
Like
Been through a lot,
like
yeah.
you almost have to feel for the guy at a certain point because they completely switch orgs. IGLs. He's been through what feels like a fucking hundred of them at this point, right? Uh, Being caught in this crossfire, the fucking like Starbucks scandal or whatever the fuck you want to call it.
You also saw
You know,
his old time teammates literally leave and go to Valorant. Like,
yeah. I
like
mean,
Ethan left to what Valorant
he's the
and
only
Stanislaw
survivor
left.
from that original NRG team. I mean,
Yeah.
stands on black, right? But they're not
Yeah.
playing together anymore.
Yeah, and like of the original core, like man, Cirque, it was like Cirque and Ethan were like the
Yeah,
boys, you know what I mean?
yeah.
And
And then
Cirque ended up
Ethan
leaving
left.
and Ethan left
Now
and
Cirque's
now it's just,
dropped, and
yeah.
I mean, Chet left, right? But that was fine, and then Daps, he was gone and then came back, and then now he's on Liquid, which like great for him, right? But I mean, yeah, Breeze is like the lone survivor from that core, and so you kind of have to feel for the guy. But I think this new roster, he does feel more rejuvenated to do well because it
Yeah.
seems like they have more of a foundation and more of a fair like start or a fair chance to actually succeed
Yeah,
because
definitely.
in that weird time where it was like we were bringing in Obo, Mihu, and all that, right? Like it's kind of fucked. And then you have Stewie and them coming in. It seems great, but there was a lot of behind the scenes shit we didn't know about, right? And Breeze has been there forever. He probably doesn't want to fucking deal with any of it, right?
Mm, yeah.
And so he's just kind of trying to play his own game. So, but now after this kind of new start, I bet he actually probably feels like they have a good chance to actually put in work and actually succeed. Overall, I think this team's still a lot better than what we had, obviously. But
Yeah, and I will say Vorborg, well, actually, on the Talking Counter podcast, the analysts obviously, they for the Katowice event, they got to kind of be behind some of the teams while they were playing. And they notice stuff like, listen, they can't hear everyone that's talking because, depending on where you're standing, but I believe it was maybe Sponge or somebody mentioned basically, like they were able to pick up that Warborg during timeouts communicates a lot and actually says some very good things and really understands the game and tries to communicate those things and does a good job doing so. And you mentioned, like that's something that he could take to, he's like, hey, that's something the analyst can use on the desk. We can say, hey, look, we know what Warburg does for this team. We've heard him speak and he says great things, and he tries to keep them in line and get them to focus on what's important and whatnot. And so that was really cool to hear about, just because you don't get to hear about how the coach is. You get to see the timeouts that are called, and I think Vorberg does a great job with timing when to use timeouts and whatnot. I think he uses timeouts very effectively, and sometimes you don't see that from coaches. But overall, yeah, that was just nice to hear. But I mean, yeah, other than that, that's kind of all I have for Katowice. Actually, that was it that night or the night before or the night after is where kind of people started to figure out, oh shit, EG's competing in the CCT event.
I think it was
Um,
literally the night
yeah,
after we got bombed. Yeah, because we lost on February 2nd, and then we played on the 4th. So it was like the next day was just like mauling over losing to Sprout, and
yeah,
then we're like, oh fuck, we played CCT tomorrow,
yeah. I want to commend EG for being
playing
able
in
to
it.
do it. And yeah,
I'd
and
like to
trying
see
to do
Easy
it.
White. I'd like to see EG White there.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, but overall, still at least happy that that Ichi was able to
Hey,
compete in
we did it
something.
though.
And obviously we're going to get to the fact it didn't go very well and it didn't last very long. But Overall, that I want to see EG play in as many events as possible because I feel like it's something that they didn't do in previous years. They would like,
We never fucking played anything.
yeah, they wouldn't
We played our
qualify for an
partner
event and
tournaments and
then,
that's it.
yeah, exactly, they wouldn't qualify for something and they wouldn't play anything fucking else, and you would just be like, all right, cool, I guess we're not playing until the next big event. Which, if we qualify for it, or if we are a partner and we get to automatically go to it, we'll just bomb out in the first two series and then just not have to watch the team for like 3 months. Um, but so I was thankful that they participated in this event. Woke up early at 7 a.m. my time. Current couldn't have woken up that early because it would have been 6 a.m. for him.
Right,
But I woke
right.
up, woke up to watch, and they played on Nuke. They played on Anubis. For those who don't know, we played Illuminar, who I couldn't name one player on their team before that match. Um, and
Nope.
Yeah, they beat us 2-0. They had a guy named Mast who we made look like Zywoo. Dude had he was the only player out of any team to have a positive plus minus after the series, and it was plus 17. So he pretty much ran the show against. He was the reason they won the series. In all honesty. But in terms of the veto, EG remove Vertigo, Illuminar remove Ancient, EG pick Nuke, Illuminar pick Anubis, EG remove Mirage, Illuminar remove Inferno, and Overpass was left over. Overall, I think that's a pretty good map
That
veto.
looks
The only
pretty
thing
good
that
for
kind of
us.
sucks is Anubis, but listen, that's going to happen. They're going to pick a map that EG is not going to be the most comfortable with, obviously. Um, Overall, pretty good map veto, but yeah, brutal series, man. Nuke, we had it in the bag. We had Nuke in the bag, but we couldn't pull it out in the end. Just a couple key rounds not going our way. And Anubis, we had a 12-7 lead, and we choked on the CT side. So, yeah, just kind of infuriating. Really just, I mean, the amount of times Mast would get kills that you were just like, dude, that's such an impactful kill. You couldn't even count them on two hands. Like it happened so many times. Um, and yeah, so overall, look, like, I'm sorry, I'm kind of rambling through the whole thoughts on the maps, but I just think like overall, I think look, we should have won Nuke, especially with winning 7 rounds on T side. That should be a W. We actually were pretty much running the show on T side. We looked really really good on that T side of Nuke. And CT side we kind of fell apart a little bit. Um, or didn't look as good as we should have. Um, but yeah, I will say Wiz did get out opt in this series. Mast pretty much had his number, especially outside on Nuke, pretty much every single round, to the point where I don't even think we were playing an op on Nuke sometimes, um, because we just couldn't deal with that guy. He was just all over the place. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's hard to be mad. I don't know, man. Like, I don't want to be too critical in the sense of like, I do think Nuke. Look, we lost, but we didn't play horribly. We just didn't play as well as we could have played.
Right.
And Anubis is not a map that we're that great at. And look, we probably should have gotten one or two more rounds on our T side, but at the end of the day, you were up 12-7. Yeah, that's got to be a good enough lead to close out at that point, hopefully. Um, so yeah, just unfortunate, I guess, is the best way that I can describe the whole situation.
Yeah, dude, I realized that we were playing Saturday at 6 a.m. Probably like Friday at like midnight.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not gonna wake up, but we're playing like a Luminar. It shouldn't be like a big deal. Like I'm glad they're playing. And then I woke up to like a Twitter shitstorm of fucking like what happened. First thing I wake up, first thing I do when I wake up is typically check HLTV. I was like, all right, let's see how we did against Illuminar. And I saw we fucking lost. And I was like, hmm, huh. I mean, I agree that I think this is probably the best outcome of the veto that we probably could have had. Right. I'm glad that Illuminar actually removed Inferno and Overpass was left over. Right. So like this series should have really went our way. I mean, maybe you know us not being really a strong Anubis team, or at least it's not our map pick. Right. You would think maybe we should win Nuke. Anubis might be a coin flip depending on how well we play, and Overpass should be a battle, but like we like our Overpass, right? So we should win that out. But no, we fucking lost. I mean, I didn't get to watch the matches, so I can't be too detailed or too critical on things that we did inside. But looking just purely off score lines, right? I mean, if we get 7-8 on T side of Nuke, I mean that's huge. I mean that's massive. Like tier one teams are searching for like 4 to 5 rounds on Nuke T side, let alone 7, and we just don't close it out. Granted, we go to overtime, but like again, should this really even be a team we're taking to overtime, right? And Anubis, we went 14-16 loss. You can argue it's not our map, right? But again, like you said in the very beginning, I can't name a single fucker on this Illuminar team and we lose.
Yeah, we actually
Now
made
I'm
a
not I'm not saying they're a bad team or anything,
yeah
right? But we just come off hot of playing tier one competition. We drop down to CCT to just get more practice, more playing time, and we lose against and this is from an NA perspective, so obviously an unknown Polish team, right? If you're in EU, you probably know more about them, but you ask all of NA fans who Illuminar is, and I guarantee you 85% of people probably don't know who the fuck they are.
yeah
Like it used to be the way we worked was we would always take care of business of teams that were below us, right? Like, if they're below us in HLTV rankings, you could almost bet we would win. It was just then teams above us, we'd almost always lose. So we are always in that weird middle ground for a very long time. But this just seems kind of disappointing. You don't. I'm guessing CCT's online, right?
yeah it's online. Yeah,
Yeah, it's online. I mean, still, even then, I
yeah,
mean, we're in Europe. It's not like we're playing on like insane ping or anything. But it's just very weird to go from playing in Blast and Katowice to CCT and losing in CCT. Right? We can lose
yeah,
in Kato, we can lose in Blast all we want, right? Because we're playing the best teams in the world most of the time, right? But then we go to CCT and we lose. Like it's
yeah.
very weird to see, especially when we always talked about, right? Like we'd like to see EG White compete in CCT because we figured they'd have like a pretty good chance.
Yep.
But fuck, if our main roster is losing in CCT, maybe EG White is not ready to play in CCT. Granted,
Yeah,
EG White probably isn't ready for anything at this point because they don't
yeah.
fucking play.
They're a waste of
But
fucking time.
again, like small silver lining. I feel like this whole podcast section is gonna just be finding these silver linings, right? Is at least we're playing, like you said, right?
Yep.
Like for a very long time, it was we play our partner tournaments, we bomb out, cool. Now I get to watch all the other really good teams play. Oh, goody, another qualifier. All right, we didn't qualify. Oh, fucking wait another month. Like it
Yeah.
was fucking ridiculous. At least we're playing, right? And that's a positive. We're getting more practice. I saw Yanko tweet saying fucking like, "Oh, we're watching," and it was like the 0-2 scoreline against the Luminar. Like, don't forget we're watching. And he fucking quoted GamerDoc in that, which I thought that was so.
Yeah, it's fucking god tier in it.
But but I mean, you know, not going at management. That was your job early in the podcast. We are own 6 since the GamerDoc tweet, so
Yeah.
that was just waiting to
Cringe.
happen.
Yeah. I will say, looking back on the Nuke game, because I just remember, dude, I was like, man, our T side was like good. And then I was like, 7-8. That doesn't even sound as good as I thought it was, as I felt it was in the beginning of the half. And here's why. Um, EG had picked up at one point. It was 7-4. It was 7-4 on T side. EG had won. It was actually at one point 5-1. Um, it was just a really good start to the T half. And then Illuminar rattled off 4 rounds at the end of the half, and then rattled off another 3 rounds at the beginning of the T side, and suddenly, you're looking at a situation where they're it's 11-7, and you've got to rattle off a comeback, and it almost happened. They almost made the comeback to the point where they literally got up to match point, I believe. I believe they got to match point before, yeah, they got to match point before Illuminar did. Couldn't close it out. Went to overtime. Won the first 2 rounds. Um, One of those I think might have even been like a pretty crazy clutch. Before losing 4 straight. And just losing the map. So again, just just weird shit where it's like we can put ourselves in decent positions, but then we just can't get it just that little step further over the line to just to win series.
Yeah.
Look, in terms of looking for the future, they have a lot of time or a decent amount of time, a couple weeks before Pro League begins. I believe, let's see, when is their match in particular?
The match or groups for EPL are not out yet, but we have about 2.5 weeks before it starts.
I think we play Cloud9.
Oh, is it out?
I think it's out, yeah.
Oh, it is. Oh,
Yeah, we play
oh yeah.
Cloud9,
Oh,
which
sick.
I will say, although Cloud9 seems to be our fucking kryptonite,
They
they
look
did
shaky,
just
man.
lose to IHC.
Granted, IHC's been kind of popping off for some reason,
But
but
we beat IHC before.
we have.
Granted, I understand this IHC team is a little bit better than they were in the past, but what I will say is if IHC can beat Cloud9, we can beat Cloud9. Are we gonna win against Cloud9? Look, I don't fucking know about that, but we certainly can. And if we do, we will finally get the G2 Hooksy matchup that I was, you know, alluding. I can't even say that fucking word
That's
right now.
true.
I can't right now. That I was talking about
Alluding
before.
to, yeah,
Yes, yeah, what you said.
that would be
Which
really
would be
sick.
fire. It would just be fire.
But you can put this in the general section, but because more of the future stuff, right? Like, man, I don't know what it is, but we can't finish, and we can't. I don't know why playing it. We can't play against ecos or force buys, and we
Bro,
can't
it's brutal.
win ecos or force buys,
It's so brutal.
right? Like, I get the economies to that point, right? If you win the pistol round, you're forced to fully buy up because you know the other side's just gonna force anyways. Because that's just kind of how the economies work.
Yep.
But like, you still have like such an advantage, and we can't win it out. Like, there's no point in winning pistol if you're not gonna win the second, because then you're broke again.
Yeah, your
You're
money fucked.
saving, then you're ecoing. Like, that's another 3 rounds lost, right? It's one thing if we don't lose or don't win pistols. If we don't win pistols, but hey, we have like really good ecos and we can like eco teams a second or third round even, I'll take that, right? But we lose pistol round, that's a guaranteed 0-3 start to the whatever half it might be, right? That's automatically 3 rounds lost. Because I know we're not winning the second round and we're gonna be
We're
on like
saving the third
under
round.
and we're saving the third round because we ecoed and then gun round finally, right? But then I see us win pistols. I'm like, okay, sick. Too bad we're gonna lose the following round, and then the following round to that, and then probably the other following, like another 3 in a row. So like we got to have one of them, right?
Yeah,
Give me one side of that story. I can deal with not winning pistol round and losing the next 2 rounds because that's traditional Counter Strike. That's how it's supposed to play out. But on the flip side of that coin, if we're winning pistol rounds, we should be getting those next two regardless. Because there was probably a couple series. I think there's at least one in that Sprout game where we didn't win a pistol. Just kidding. I was looking at the name. But on that Mirage, we won the T side pistol, but then we lose 2 rounds to an eco, right? Or we win the CC tied pistol. We do win the following round, but then we lose the third because they forced. Like those in those close matches, that's like so important to just win the rounds that you're supposed to win. Like I can take losing a gun round versus a gun round in fact of maybe we got outstratted or they just made a good play or made good shots. But it's when we're up against fucking Deagles or just like some goofy ass buy and we fucking lose, it gets under my fucking skin. It just
yeah,
shouldn't happen, right? Like this isn't this isn't how it's supposed to work.
yeah.
I
I will say, looking at this, I was kind of looking a little bit deeper into this EPL, these EPL groups. I will say we probably got the second most difficult group.
of course.
Um, there's some of these groups, man, have some pretty easy, or in theory, easy teams to play against. Like in our group, the easiest teams are IHC in theory, which obviously they just beat Cloud9, so I don't know if they're a joke anymore. Um, MIBR, who
Uh,
looked kind of promising with that new uh, what's this
the
guy's
new
name?
lineup with Insani. Sonny's
Yeah,
really
Insani. Yeah,
good.
Insani looks pretty fucking sick.
He
His
he's
individual skill is
crazy.
unreal.
He's
Um,
insane.
yeah, his individual skill is unreal. And
And
then
then
Eternal
Eternal
Fire's
Fire.
in the group as well. But you look at some of these other groups, they got like movie star riders who's fallen off a cliff. Um,
Complexity, who
Imperial is a
I'll
fucking
still back
joke.
up. I'll still
Fury,
back up on better than complexity. Saw.
yeah,
I had to,
Saw.
I had to slip it in there somewhere.
Yeah, you had to find a way to put it in there, yeah. And then you look at Group C, Rooster,
Who
Pain
the
Gaming, Zero Zero Nation, Greyhound, like they're not playing anybody in that fucking group. Um, and then
who the
Group D is
fuck is
probably the
Rooster?
most difficult with Fours and Spirit and ATKs, whatever ATK, but ATK and then Rare Atom are probably the easier teams in that
Hey,
group.
you
But
know
it's
what?
still
Good on
Fours and
ATK.
Spirit are pretty good. Oh yeah, I'm glad
Hey.
for ATK, but they are probably one of the easier teams to beat in that group. But still a
Oh no,
relatively difficult group.
without a doubt. Yeah, no, they're probably gonna get
So we
smoked.
either have the hardest or the second hardest group in Pro League. So listen, and the route that we specifically have to get to the upper final is
Extremely
brutal. I mean, you're gonna have to beat Cloud9 and G2 to make it to the upper final. Like, look,
and
as
then
much as I want to say
probably
Pro
the
League is gonna go better than the past two events, that is a brutal draw to get.
yeah.
So
And
even with
we
a
could
lower
talk about
bracket,
it
I
more
don't
as the
know.
weeks come,
Yeah,
but
exactly. Yeah,
but
just first
like
thoughts.
first thoughts, like my expectations as of right now is like if we lose that, we'll play. I would like to see a series win as of
Yeah, I
right
know. You look at it, you're just like it's brutal.
because like even if we lose a C9, G2 beats Eternal Fire.
We should beat Eternal Fire.
Man,
We should beat Eternal
yeah.
Fire.
I mean, we say that about Illuminar. We kind of said it like against Fnatic, even though that was a BO1. We should have beaten Complexity. Okay,
I think we'll beat. I think we'll beat
I think
Eternal
we can
Fire.
beat Eternal Fire. So we should get a series round there, and then we'll probably end up playing probably. I don't know how that breaks down in the lower semifinals. I don't know
So
if
we
the
would
loser of G2 and
probably.
Cloud9 play us again, or if
They
it like
probably.
flip
Oh
flops.
yeah, I know what you're saying.
I'm not sure
Yeah,
if it flip flops to where like the winner or the loser of
yeah,
hypothetically like Outsiders and Fnatic would play us, right?
yeah. Who knows? Yeah.
It might flip flop, but we'd have to see. But I'd like to see a series win because in theory,
There's these decider
Cloud.
maps as well. I don't know what these decider maps are, but potentially you might also have to play like a last
Oh
chance
yeah, the
stage.
last chance stage
So I don't know how that works, but
for fourth place decider. Oh yeah, so yeah, because if you look at the single elimination bracket, which would lead you to the grand final, if you win the fourth place decider, then you are placed with the longest road to get to the grand finals. So if you win your group, you're automatically in the quarters. If you're second in your group, you're second round, and then third in your group, you are in the first round of the playoffs playing against whoever won the different decider matches.
gotcha, gotcha.
So in theory, there's three different routes we could take to actually make it to playoffs. Oh man, if we made it to playoffs, EPL was a fucking success.
Yeah, yeah, it would be.
But
Yeah,
that's granted we make it to playoffs.
yeah,
But looking at how the group's breaking down, we should probably see a series win against Eternal Fire. Cloud9 looked extremely shaky. They've looked very shaky as of late. But, Shiro will probably just drop 30 on our domes and we'll go home for the night sad.
yeah, probably.
So, but yeah, I mean, because our ESL ranking's so low, we keep getting in these like really tough groups
Yeah,
for like pretty much everything. And until we can get our ESL ranking up, we're gonna keep seeing us have tougher and tougher groups. So, and the only way to do that is through hard work and playing better. But it sounds like that's what they're doing. So,
yep. I think
um,
that's probably it for this episode. Um, you know, I think we went through pretty much everything. Obviously a tough week, but you know, looking forward to seeing them in Pro League and hopefully things turn out a little bit better there. I know the guys are working pretty hard, so um, hopefully we start to see a little bit more better results and the team kind of gel a little bit better now that they have a little bit of time to practice together instead of just going to from event to event to event. Um, but yeah, overall, been a tough week, but hopefully they're able to bounce back for Pro League. So Yeah, thank you guys all for watching. Obviously, timestamps and socials and stuff are all in the description, so please sure to make sure to go click on those and give us a follow and whatnot. And although you probably won't want to follow me after the first half of this episode, but hey, no harm, no foul.
You
Um,
guys can give me a follow.
yeah, yeah, you can give Curran a follow. Yeah, 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 yeah. Go to his Twitter. I don't want you guys following me on Twitter anyway. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, thank you all for tuning in, and catch you all next week.